The kingdom is about to fall. Everyone else is kneeling obediently in the square, but the foodie princess is humming a tune as she cooks a pot of dough-sliced soup. Even when the enemy army charges all the way to the kitchen door, she still calmly leaves herself one ladleful and gets ready to taste it. When she sees the people coming to capture her, the foodie princess stuffs 2 big bites into her mouth. "You can take me away, but at least wait until I finish this bowl first." Even the leading soldier is stunned. This filthy, disheveled maid is actually the kingdom's 6th princess. No matter, drag her away first. Poor foodie princess. Even as she is about to be taken to the execution ground, she is still heartbroken over that freshly made bowl of dough-sliced soup. The king and his family kneel at the very front of the crowd. As a princess, she can only ask everyone to make a little room for her first. She struggles for quite a while before finally squeezing her way to the very front. But then the eldest princess, Ingli, speaks up to remind her, "This is not where you should be standing." The foodie princess is stunned. "Can't you tell that I'm a princess too?" Only then does the red-haired princess suddenly remember that there really does seem to be someone living in the abandoned palace. Even the fall of a kingdom cannot stop people from watching the drama. The foodie princess, however, does not really care because she was never originally from this world anyway. Because she got too immersed in reading a novel, she was directly transmigrated into the story, and she knows everyone's ending like the back of her hand. The female lead is none other than Princess Ingli from just now, and the male lead is a mad emperor because his pursuit failed. He sent people to conquer Ingli's country and forcibly took her away. The Duke sent here is the unlucky second male lead, who also cannot help falling in love with the heroine. This plot is full of ridiculous flaws, but it has nothing much to do with her. The foodie princess's greatest wish is simply to enjoy the present in the abandoned palace, to spend her free time researching delicious food. When she thinks of the dough she kneaded by hand this morning, and that steaming, fragrant bowl of dough-sliced soup, the foodie princess practically starts drooling. Suddenly, the Duke steps in front of everyone and asks his subordinates whether they have captured them all. As soon as he says this, the nobles of the kingdom lower their heads even further. The red-haired princess trembles with fear. Only the foodie princess still holds her head high, admiring that chocolate-colored uniform. What was this handsome man's nickname again? Was it the Emperor's dog or the Emperor's sword? The delicate white flower heroine, Ingli, suddenly speaks. "How do you plan to deal with us?" The Duke does not answer. Instead, he asks, "Can't you imagine what happens to the royal family of a fallen kingdom?" The people of the kingdom are so frightened that they immediately bow their heads and plead guilty. "Whatever you want, we can give it to you. We only beg that you spare their lives." Quietly watching the drama, the foodie princess still does not forget to pop some snacks into her mouth. The Duke sees through her little movement at a glance. He walks toward the foodie princess step by step. Cold sweat instantly breaks out across her back. The next second, Ingli suddenly steps in front of the foodie princess. "What are you trying to do to her?" The foodie princess is touched by the scene, but still thinks, "Big sis, you do not even know me at all, do you?" The Duke stops and asks, "What I do to her? What does that have to do with you?" With a look of heroic self-sacrifice on her face, Ingli says, "She is still young. Let me take her place." The plot matches up now. The second male lead and the female lead gaze deeply into each other's eyes. The Duke becomes interested in the fallen princess, and the second male lead's tragic love begins from this moment. Unable to resist shipping them, the foodie princess silently gives herself a thumbs up. "Oh my god. When did this guy get right in front of me?" The foodie princess quickly pulls back her hand, but the Duke has already seen it and asks what that strange gesture means. The foodie princess can only kneel down and say respectfully that it means the Duke is very handsome. But the Duke is not buying it at all. "Don't think I didn't see that little move just now. Put out your hand." The foodie princess stammers an explanation. "A bug bit my hand just now, and it felt itchy, so I kept scratching it." The Duke is almost amused out of anger. "Do you think I would believe that?" He immediately orders his men to search her. A group of burly men viciously stretch out their claws. The foodie princess cannot resist, and the attendants quickly find something on her. A red root-like object with a rich cheese and beef aroma. "Explain yourself. Is this a weapon or poison?" The Duke even draws his sword, preparing to grant her a swift death on the spot. The foodie princess has no choice but to go all out. Sooner or later, death is death anyway. She says in a small voice, "This is a stick." The slightly hard of hearing Duke does not catch it clearly. After asking twice, the foodie princess gets angry too. Drawing in a deep breath, she shouts its name loudly. It's a cheese beef stick. Her loud voice echoes across the entire square, even with the reverberation. The foodie princess's face instantly turns bright red with embarrassment. This is too socially mortifying. This country had better collapse quickly. For a moment, the Duke suspects something is wrong with his ears. The attendants beside him all testify that she really did say cheese beef stick. While the second male lead is not paying attention, the foodie princess quietly slips behind the heroine and smugly praises her own cooking. "That thing is seriously delicious." No one can believe it. They're already at the execution ground, and she still has the mind to sneak bites of beef sticks. Relying on the heroine's plot armor, The foodie princess curls her lips. No one ever said you can't eat beef sticks at an execution ground. The foodie princess, who has extreme confidence in her cooking, hands a beef stick to the Duke. Maybe if the Duke tastes her cooking, she can get out of this predicament. The attendants try to stop her, but to everyone's surprise, the Duke takes a bite. The next second, the foodie princess is thrown into prison. For the first time in her life, the foodie princess begins to doubt her own cooking. Did the Duke think the beef stick tasted bad? Or does he just not like cheese? But beef sticks and cheese are obviously a perfect match. Unable to make sense of it no matter how much she thinks, the foodie princess calls out to the guard locking her up and asks how the remaining cheese beef sticks were dealt with. The guard is astonished. You're already in the state, and you're still thinking about those beef sticks? But there's no harm in telling you. The Duke ordered them all destroyed. Hearing this, the foodie princess's heart goes cold. She never thought she would die in this life because of a single beef stick. She just wonders whether that Duke will keep his word and give her a quick death. Surely, he's not planning to lock her up here forever, is he? Just as the foodie princess is lost in wild thoughts, the Duke arrives at the dungeon. The first thing he says is, which the foodie princess's brain is about to short circuit. Big brother, what kind of act are you putting on now? The Duke assumes the woman before him is pretending to be stupid, and he even deliberately brings up that beef stick. His family has been cursed by a witch for generations, so no matter what he eats, everything tastes disgusting. But today, he tasted the true flavor of the beef stick. The foodie princess, whose brain is nearly overloaded, finally pieces things together bit by bit. So it was not because her food was too awful that she was locked up here. The Duke gestures to his attendants. A box of torture instruments is thrown in front of the foodie princess. It really does taste good, but because I lost my sense of taste due to a witch's curse, yet I can taste the beef stick you made with your own hands. Doesn't that prove that you are the witch? The foodie princess is utterly shocked. What kind of absurd logic is that? But in the novel, there really is such a plotline. The Duke's family has suffered a witch's curse for generations and lost their sense of taste. All food tastes like garbage. From then on, witches vanish without a trace, and in order to seek revenge, the Duke keeps searching for witches, his hatred for them reaching the extreme. But she is obviously just a cannon fodder extra who transmigrated into the book to play a minor role. The foodie princess desperately shouts that she is not a witch. However, the Duke has already decided that she is, saying that after all 18 sets of torture devices, she will naturally confess. Looking at the gleaming torture tools in the Duke's hand, the foodie princess swallows hard while leaning against the wall. Her original plan was simply not to die hungry, yet now she is actually about to be tortured. This part was not in the script at all, so what is she supposed to do now? The foodie princess's brain spins wildly. At last, she makes up her mind and drops to her knees before the Duke. That's right. I am a witch. The Duke freezes for a moment, and the foodie princess quickly takes the chance to explain. I'm an apprentice witch. I can't cast curses, and I can't remove them either. To make herself look more convincing, the foodie princess rolls up her sleeve. This is a witch's mark. In truth, it is only a burn she got accidentally while cooking. But the Duke shudders all over, so you really did use magic on the beef stick. The foodie princess says that actually, there is no need for magic at all. You just have to air dry freshly butchered beef. Then add her secret seasoning blend that would make even choux sauce taste delicious. The Duke immediately feels a bit uncomfortable. A witch's seasoning, could it be bugs? The foodie princess is speechless. How could I possibly put something like that in it? In any case, she's already confessed everything. So there should be no need for torture anymore, right? The Duke recalls the beef stick he ate just now. It was the first time in his life that he tasted flavor, and unexpectedly, it was delicious. Another plan instantly forms in his mind. Since you're only an apprentice witch, torture can be waived. However, the Duke pauses. The foodie princess's heart leaps into her throat. Don't stop halfway through your sentence, big brother. The next day, the foodie princess looks at the sunlight she has not seen in a long time and is so emotional she nearly cries tears of joy. Before she can even sigh with feeling, the attendant beside her urges her to hurry up and cook. The foodie princess immediately runs toward the kitchen. She still cannot relax. The Duke laid down harsh words last night. If she cannot make a dish that satisfies him, she will die on the spot. What is more, the ingredients before her are far too luxurious. As a top-tier foodie, she absolutely cannot let such ingredients down. The foodie princess skillfully slices the scallions into sections. She tosses them into the broth to remove the gamey smell and enhance the freshness. Then she washes some bean sprouts to make the texture richer. As the delicious stock finishes cooking, a steaming hot signature dish is completed as well. The attendant leads the foodie princess toward the study. Along the way, she is practically driven mad by the aroma. Unfortunately, her life is still in someone else's hands. As the door slowly opens, the Duke has already been waiting inside for a long time. The foodie princess nervously swallows and keeps telling herself to have confidence. When she lifts the lid, amid the rising steam, a layered hot pot with perfect color, aroma, and flavor appears before everyone. The Duke widens his eyes in shock. What is this? For a moment, the foodie princess does not even know how to explain it. She can only say that it is her original creation. The Duke finds it very novel, woman. You are quite bold. Your life is at stake. Yet you still dare make a dish I have never seen before. You'll understand once you eat it. She believes that no one can resist meat dipped in peanut sauce. To prevent poisoning, the Duke orders the foodie princess to take a bite first. This plays perfectly into a foodie's hands. After smelling it all the way here, she is already on the verge of going crazy with craving. The foodie princess skillfully picks up the meat and vegetables. She coats them with a thick layer of peanut sauce. The moment she puts it into her mouth, it feels as if all her taste buds are blooming at once. However, the Duke becomes interested in the 2 sticks in the foodie princess's hands. Remembering the hardships when she had just transmigrated here, the foodie princess nearly sheds tears of sorrow. A top-tier foodie with no utensils to use had no choice but to stay up all night polishing a pair of chopsticks together with her wet nurse, who could possibly understand that suffering. Looking at the foodie princess, who seems to show no abnormal reaction, the Duke worries that it may be a poison that does not take effect immediately, so he plans to wait a bit longer. However, the usually easygoing foodie princess becomes directly furious this time. Such delicious layered hot pot should be eaten while it is hot. Waiting itself is an insult to food. Looking at the excited girl before him, the Duke is momentarily distracted. For the first time, he goes against his own principles. He picks up the food with a fork and begins chewing slowly. The Napa cabbage, soaked full of meat juices, is fresh and succulent, while the premium tender beef is wrapped in peanut sauce. With one bite, the rich fragrance of the sauce bursts together with the meat juices in the mouth, full of layers, becoming more fragrant the more one chews. It makes people unable to stop after just one bite. As the sound of the Duke's swallowing rings out, the foodie princess's heart nearly jumps into her throat as well. Her mind is filled with images of the Duke flying into a rage. After a brief silence, the foodie princess carefully asks, "It's good, right?" This is the first time in the Duke's life that he has eaten something so delicious. Yet this Sundra man merely nods and says lightly that the taste is fairly good. Looking at this man who says one thing and means another, the foodie princess cannot help exposing him. That expression on your face clearly says it tastes amazing. The foodie princess cannot help continuing her sales pitch. "We can also make spicy hot pot, mutton hot pot, tripe hot pot." However, the Duke darkens his face and suddenly slams the table as he stands up. "Listen carefully. When His Majesty sent me here, he made an agreement with me. After destroying this kingdom, I may take away one thing that I want. Originally, he thought there would be nothing he wanted in such a shabby kingdom, but now there is." The foodie princess is instantly stunned. What kind of development is this now? The novel was not written like this at all. So how exactly does he plan to deal with her now? The Duke answers at once. "Until I finish handling these official affairs, I will keep you locked up first, and then I will take you back to the Empire." The foodie princess completely breaks down. She is being forcibly taken away to be a cook, and she will have to keep cooking for someone while constantly risking her life. The foodie princess tries to save herself. "Don't you want the beautiful blonde, blue-eyed princess?" The Duke says he has no interest. "Then what about the enchanting princess with flaming red hair?" The Duke still replies, "I have no thoughts about that either." The foodie princess is practically ready to kneel to someone. The plot has already gone this far off track. Are you really not going to reconsider? The Duke bends down. His domineering aura instantly maxed out. "Are you questioning my decision?" The foodie princess can only give 2 awkward dry laughs. How would she dare? The next second, her stomach growls loudly. This is way too socially mortifying. The Duke waves his hand and orders people to take her away to casually eat something first, then lock her up again. The foodie princess's stomach growls with hunger, and her head aches terribly over how far the plot has veered off course. But right now, eating is still the top priority. First, dice all the vegetables. Then crack an egg into the oil pan and stir-fry it over high heat for 180 seconds. A basin of fragrant egg-fried rice is done. The foodie princess also shapes the egg-fried rice into rice balls and even hums a tune excitedly. The attendant instantly becomes alert. Could this be a witch's incantation? "Young man, you are still too naive. This is merely a foodie's exclusive sense of ritual." The foodie princess even invites the attendant to join in. Looking at the round rice balls in the bowl, driven by curiosity, the attendant also steps forward and tries shaping one. As he shapes it, he quietly mutters, "Become delicious." However, the finished product turns out shockingly ugly. When the foodie princess sees it, she seriously begins teaching the attendant how to make rice balls. The attendant suddenly feels that perhaps this princess before him is not actually a vicious witch. Perhaps she is not actually a vicious witch. The next second, however, a chill runs down his back. Why does it suddenly feel as though the Duke is staring at him? The delicate and perfect rice balls are finally finished. The foodie princess takes one bite. Feeling the soft, glutinous rice grains perfectly blend with the naturally sweet vegetables after stir-frying, it is simply unbelievably delicious. The foodie princess signals for the attendant to take a bite as well. The attendant frowns and cautiously takes a small bite. The next second, he is completely stunned by the fragrant and soft texture. He has never eaten such delicious food before. Since packing up leftovers is one of the traditional virtues, the foodie princess also hands one to the attendant and tells him to take it back and share it with others. The attendant is somewhat shocked. "Your appetite is way too big." But the foodie princess says that one is being saved for her wet nurse. The attendant hesitates for a moment. Then he still tells the foodie princess a cruel truth. Only then, Looking at the dungeon gate, does the foodie princess suddenly remember? The royal family and the attendants are being imprisoned separately. So how is she supposed to survive among those princesses? Surely they are not going to order her around like a maid, right? Thinking of this, the foodie princess pitifully begs the attendant, "Can I not go in?" The only response she gets is a cold refusal. The foodie princess silently cheers herself on. She managed to survive even in the hands of that mad duke. Being easy to bully is nothing. She can do this. Do this, my ass. Won't somebody come save her? The moment she steps into the prison gates, the rice ball in her bag is snatched away in an instant. Just as the foodie princess's heart aches so much for the rice ball that it practically bleeds, Ingli reaches out a hand to her. "Come sit up here. The ground is cold." The foodie princess awkwardly thanks her, sits beside Ingli, and still cannot help sneaking glances at her. As expected of the heroine, locked up in a place like this where washing up and eating are inconvenient, and yet she can still remain so poised and proper. The foodie princess feels around inside her skirt. Luckily, she is clever enough to have secretly hidden one rice ball at the last minute. But before her happiness lasts even a second, she feels the person beside her staring straight at her. Ingli looks a little embarrassed, watching the few people in front of her scramble for food like wild dogs, while only Ingli sits here quietly without fighting or grabbing. The foodie princess thinks that she truly is worthy of the kind-hearted, beautiful heroine setting. The foodie princess hands the rice ball to Ingli and says that she already ate a lot before coming here. Who would have thought that Ingli would still split the rice ball in half? Watching the beautiful older sister smile and thank her, the foodie princess feels as if her heart has been fiercely struck. No wonder this is the woman who drives both the male lead and the second male lead mad. As she is eating happily at this moment, she still has no idea that danger is about to descend. After sending the foodie princess into the dungeon, Lucid runs into a colleague who has just finished his shift. Looking at his companion, who is starving so much his chest nearly sticks to his back, Lucid hands over the rice ball the princess just gave him. His colleague is very surprised. It smells so good, and it was actually made by a princess. Just as he is about to take a bite, a cold voice suddenly comes from behind him. "What exactly did you just say?" When he looks up, it is actually the duke's face on the verge of anger. Lucid has no choice but to confess that it is a rice ball made by the princess from the abandoned palace. The duke lets out a cold laugh. "This woman is absurd and interesting indeed. Very good. You have successfully aroused my interest." The cannon fodder supporting female character, who only wanted to slack off after entering the two-dimensional world, has actually been won over by the pure, kind, and beautiful heroine. No wonder she is the woman who drives both the male lead and the second male lead mad. I really want to stick close to Big Sis forever. However, the next second, the door is kicked open. The Duke, the second male lead, strides viciously up to the two of them. "You two are not suitable together. Hurry and come with me." The foodie princess has already prepared to resign herself to fate. Suddenly, a hand blocks the way in front of her. "I will not let you bully my little sister as recklessly as you did yesterday, ever again." Killing intent instantly spills from the Duke. "Arrest her." The not-so-bright soldier grabs the foodie princess's hand in one go. The Duke looks speechless. "Not her, you got the wrong one." The soldier directly throws the foodie princess onto the ground. Then he turns around and gently lifts up Ingli's hand. "Hey, does there really have to be such blatant differential treatment?" The Duke glances arrogantly at the weak and helpless foodie princess. "Now, no one will get in my way. Lead the way to the kitchen." "So you barged into my room in the middle of the night instead of sleeping, threw Big Sis into prison, all just to make me cook rice balls for you?" The urge to stab someone is impossible to hide. Although she really wants to beat him up, the foodie princess still asks with a smile, "Do I really have to cook at this hour?" The Duke wears a sour expression. His whole face says, "If you have an opinion, I'll cut you down immediately." Looking at the Duke, who is just about to lose his temper, the foodie princess immediately bows and scrapes. "I have no objections. I'm best at cooking in the middle of the night." Looking at the foodie princess's back, the Duke suddenly says, "From now on, you may only cook for me." The foodie princess turns around. "What are you talking about?" But the Duke walks straight toward the foodie princess. "Neither my subordinates nor those precious sisters of yours are allowed. I do not like lending my belongings to others." This sudden overbearing CEO-style line leaves the foodie princess completely dumbfounded. "If you want to talk, then talk. Why are you standing so close? The food is almost getting burnt." The Duke turns around and tells the foodie princess to continue cooking for him. The fragrant fried rice is finally done. The foodie princess skillfully shapes it into rice balls. Watching the Duke wolf down his food, the foodie princess cannot help wondering whether this man even chews when he eats. Still, a handsome man eating heartily really is pleasing to the eye. With a speed like this, it would be a shame if he did not become a mukbang streamer. After just a few mouthfuls, the Duke has already cleaned his plate. After being hungry for more than 20 years, this is the first time he has ever known what full feels like. Seeing that her task is already complete, the foodie princess prepares to slip away quickly. "No, you cannot leave. Come back to my room with me." The foodie princess was full of question marks. "Do you even hear what you're saying?" The foodie princess asked again, "Whose room?" The Duke had already stood up and walked to the door. "Didn't you hear? Back to my room." The foodie princess was speechless. But the Duke said, "To keep you from running away on your own, it's better to keep you where I can see you." Unable to refuse, The foodie princess could only follow the Duke. On the way, she still held on to one last shred of fantasy. The Duke's room should, maybe, probably, definitely have 2 bedrooms, right? However, reality dealt her a heavy blow. She never expected that the moment the Duke returned to his room, he would start playing a striptease game. Sensing someone's gaze, the Duke turned his head and looked over. The foodie princess instantly looked away and stammered that she didn't mean to do it. Touching her face, red and burning hot, she silently chanted in her heart, "If I can only look and not touch, I might as well go back to being a maid for those princesses." Overcome with lustful thoughts, the foodie princess secretly glanced again. The Duke's figure was really lean and toned. You absolutely couldn't tell when he had clothes on. Seeing that the Duke looked over again, the foodie princess quickly turned her head away. "He's so thin. What does he usually eat? Could it really be that aside from the food I make, he can't taste anything else? What are you thinking about?" The Duke suddenly spoke, startling the foodie princess. When she turned her head, what came into view was the Duke's elegant and upright figure. After changing into a different outfit, he felt completely different, an utterly and openly gentle, beautiful man. In the next second, however, the Duke picked up the sword in his hand. He stared at her viciously. "Take back what I just said." This man still looked very scary. Unexpectedly, the Duke directly lay down on the bed holding his sword. The foodie princess was curious. Can he really fall asleep like that? But the Duke said that he rarely slept at night, and even when he did, the curse kept him from sleeping peacefully. The foodie princess couldn't help asking, "Does that curse really make someone completely unable to taste anything? You're a witch, and you're asking me?" Faced with the Duke's suspicion, the foodie princess immediately stammered. She didn't really understand curses that well either. The Duke was silent for a while, but still said it out loud. "The textures you people talk about, to me, are like chewing sand, and drinking soup feels like drinking sewer water. But the food you make is different." No wonder this guy had just devoured 10 people's worth of food in one go. So he'd really been starving for more than 20 years and had never tasted flavor at all. While the foodie princess was still sighing over this, the Duke suddenly drew his sword. "Why are you asking all this? Are you planning to pull some trick while I'm asleep?" "No, I'm just curious." After saying that, the foodie princess immediately wrapped herself up like a silkworm cocoon and went to sleep first out of respect. In the dead of night, the foodie princess still found all of this unbelievable. She never thought that after the kingdom was occupied, she wouldn't lose her head and wouldn't be thrown into a dungeon either, and that she would actually be sleeping on a soft sofa. Just a few words from the Duke had directly changed the plot. If she really was the only one who could make food the Duke could eat, then did that mean she could have a new life? She just didn't know how Ingli and the nursemaid were doing now. She really wished all of this were just a dream. She wanted so badly to bury herself in the nursemaid's warm embrace. But was the nursemaid's chest this hard? Not sure. Better touch it again. The moment the foodie princess opened her eyes, her soul practically flew out of her body from fright. She was actually feeling up the Duke's chest muscles, and by her ear came the Duke's teasing voice. A certain woman said with her mouth that she wouldn't do anything, but in the end, she quietly climbed onto someone else's bed, grabbed me in one go so I couldn't move, and went straight for my chest with a whole round of. "Stop talking, I can already picture it, okay? Why didn't you just kick me away? I'm a knight. How could I kick a girl?" The foodie princess broke down. "You liar. You were even planning to torture me before." The Duke picked up the sword in his hand and abruptly changed the subject. "You should know what happens when you put your hands all over me, right?" The foodie princess instantly turned to stone. "Boss, if you have any demands, just say them." The Duke drew his sword. "For something like this, do I still need to think of it for you?" "No need. I'll do it myself." Hearing this satisfactory answer, the Duke immediately sheathed his sword and said he was hungry. The foodie princess instantly launched herself out of bed like a spinning Thomas flip. "I'll go make food right now." The foodie princess violently threw the beef onto the chopping board. She muttered crazily under her breath. "Crazy. This is absolutely crazy. How could I have slept so soundly in that kind of situation, and even do something so messed up to that huge freak?" While questioning her life, she didn't dare stop moving her hands. With one careless slip, she almost cut her finger. The foodie princess forced herself to calm down. She should just focus on cooking first. If this meal couldn't satisfy someone, then maybe what got chopped off wouldn't just be a finger. She minced the fresh beef and pork, poured them together with torn bread into milk, and mixed them evenly. Then she added all kinds of seasonings for flavor. Finally, she shaped it into the form of bread and put it into the oven. With the remaining time, she could just make a potato salad. She had wanted to make a soup too, but suddenly received urging from a servant. When she learned that the Duke had already started wiping his sword, the foodie princess was so frightened she didn't dare delay even a second and pushed the food cart along behind the servant. It didn't matter if there was no soup, but if she made someone wait too long, the consequences would definitely be miserable. As the door opened, the foodie princess was instantly immersed in the Duke's breathtaking beauty. "You're here?" Hearing the Duke's voice, the foodie princess jolted all over. In a flurry, she placed the prepared dishes onto the table. Meat patties covered in sauce, paired with rich and creamy mashed potatoes. That was today's lunch. The Duke signaled for the foodie princess to get another set of utensils and sit down to eat with him. The foodie princess found it hard to refuse. This was the first time she had felt so uneasy about eating. Looking at someone eating with great relish, and unlike last time, he didn't make her test the food for poison. Men's hearts really are as hard to fathom as the bottom of the sea. But the Duke suddenly spoke. Aren't you eating? Acting on her foodie instinct not to waste food, the foodie princess forked up a piece of meat patty and put it in her mouth. The texture was as soft as bread. With one bite, the meat juices instantly flooded her whole mouth. The meat was also filled with the rich fragrance of tomato sauce. After the meat, she took another spoonful of refreshing, soft potato salad. This flavor was truly amazing. She just didn't know whether it suited the Duke's taste, so the foodie princess secretly glanced over that someone had actually already cleaned his plate. The foodie princess jumped in shock. She had made enough for 5 people. So when exactly had this guy finished it all? The Duke elegantly wiped his mouth. Probably while you were eating the potato salad. Then, are you satisfied with this meal, sir? The Duke arrogantly nodded. Not bad. The foodie princess instantly burst into tears. If my wrist gets cut off, I won't be able to cook anymore. So let's just let last night's matter go, okay? As she spoke, the foodie princess gave a full 180-degree bow. However, the Duke abruptly changed the subject. Still, there's one thing I'm not very satisfied with. The Duke snapped his fingers. Instantly, a group of hands reached out and grabbed the foodie princess. Hadn't you already forgiven my mistake from yesterday? But the Duke only looked at her coldly and said nothing. The foodie princess was mercilessly dragged out by others. Now it was really over. They had already started a bubble bath. Excuse me, may I ask, do punishments here all come with this much ritual? Do you have to wash clean before torture? The maid looked confused. The Duke only ordered us to bathe you and change you into another outfit. And no matter what, how could the Duke possibly hurt a woman he spent the night with? The foodie princess instantly bristled. Hey, don't talk nonsense. That's slander, slander. However, the maid didn't listen to her explanation and pulled her hand over. We should trim your nails too. Washed until she was all fragrant, the foodie princess looked like a completely different person. The Duke nodded in satisfaction. Now you're finally presentable. Your hands were clean before, but overall you still looked too shabby. The foodie princess was angry, but didn't dare say it. She really wanted to beat up this sharp-tongued man. Still, this was the first time the foodie princess had ever worn such fine clothes. When she had been locked in the abandoned palace, she had only dressed a little better than the maids. After admiring herself in the mirror for quite a while, she still decided to properly thank the Duke. However, the moment she turned around, she met the Duke's handsome face. Her breathing stopped for an instant. The Duke reached out his hand. The foodie princess nervously closed her eyes, inexplicably feeling her heartbeat getting faster and faster. However, the Duke merely picked a leaf off her head. Confirmed, a clean freak plus severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. Suddenly, a guard came in to report. The princess being held in the dungeon wants to see the Duke. The foodie princess immediately realized that was the original female lead, her sister Ingli. Unexpectedly, the Duke actually brought her along. Though it was socially mortifying, the foodie princess still chose to turn her head and silently eat the gossip. I heard you wanted to see me about something? Ingli hadn't expected the Duke to be so direct. What exactly are your intentions? You locked me up. What is it you really want? You locked me here and never came even once. Did you want me to taste what loneliness feels like? Even so, I will never submit. Faced with Ingli's question after question, the Duke only felt bored. Then keep going. Ingli suspected she had heard wrong, but the Duke looked extremely impatient. In the future, just tell the jailer about this kind of thing. Instead of wasting time here listening to nonsense, it would be better to have the foodie princess make more food. What should be on tonight's menu? Seeing that he was about to leave, Ingli called out to the foodie princess, "Are you okay? He didn't do anything to you, did he?" Looking at Ingli's worried expression, the foodie princess felt a little guilty. Just as she was about to say something, the Duke's displeased voice sounded by her ear. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and follow. The foodie princess could only first tell Ingli to endure it a little longer. After all, the heroine had plot armor. She didn't. Her little life could be gone at any moment. Seeing someone dragging her feet, the Duke was very unhappy. You are not in a position where you can move around freely now. The foodie princess quickly took the oil lamp and followed the Duke out of the dungeon. Looking at the bottomless staircase, the foodie princess tentatively asked, will the royal family members imprisoned here be provided with food? They're all going to be executed anyway. Is there any need to feed them? The foodie princess was instantly frightened by the man's cold-bloodedness. You never thought of letting them go? They have no such value. The foodie princess knew that if she kept asking, someone would get angry again. So she hurriedly used her trump card. Aren't you hungry? However, the Duke looked completely justified. Shouldn't you be taking the initiative to cook as soon as it's mealtime? That was true, but why did it sound so infuriating when he said it? The foodie princess hesitated for a moment, but still proposed her condition. If this time the food turns out delicious, then will you also provide food to the royals and maids locked in the dungeon? Looking at the Duke's gaze fixed tightly on her, the foodie princess's momentum instantly wilted. The Duke still said nothing, and the foodie princess regretted it at once. Was she going to be locked back in the dungeon again? However, the Duke asked her why she would make such a condition. The royal family of a defeated country. Most of them are executed in the end, so whether they're beheaded or starved to death, isn't the result the same? Why still send them food? And the Duke had even specifically investigated it. The Foodie Princess was a princess of the abandoned palace. Those people had never cared whether you lived or died, yet you still want to save them. Faced with the Duke's confusion, the Foodie Princess only smiled faintly. She had indeed been thrown into the abandoned palace, and it was also her first time seeing her sisters. She had never even seen her royal father. But no matter who it was, being hungry felt awful. And the life creed of a foodie was to absolutely never die a hungry ghost. Although the Duke didn't understand, he was still deeply shaken. He could agree to the condition, but on one premise: she had to make food that would make him personally say, delicious. Got it. The Foodie Princess suddenly slapped the table, startling the attendant beside her so badly that he trembled. If I make this, that picky freak will definitely praise it as delicious. The Foodie Princess neatly arranged the ingredients on the chopping board. First, she washed the chicken clean, then cut it into suitably sized pieces. Then she soaked it in milk to remove the gamey smell. Then she added salt, pepper, and other seasonings to marinate it thoroughly. Finally, she coated it with a thick layer of dry flour, and that was it. Next came the most crucial step: hot oil at high temperature. Once little bubbles rose on the surface of the oil, she dropped in the chicken pieces and started frying. Dog of a man, just wait to be conquered by me. The Duke was handling official business in the study. Once matters here were settled, he would be able to return to the Empire immediately. Thinking that he still had to choose some captives to bring back to the Empire, the Duke thought again of that woman who feared death, yet was also bold. How had he agreed to such an absurd condition? If such words had come from anyone else's mouth, he would definitely have torn out their tongue on the spot. This was outrageous. Could it be that he had been bewitched? Suddenly, his stomach growled. Now he remembered, it was entirely because of the temptation of delicious food, that which had actually used food to seduce him. No matter, he could just deny everything after eating. The Duke made up his mind, and just then, the Foodie Princess also finished preparing lunch. Food's here. Today's menu is original fried chicken and potato wedges with iced beer. The golden fried chicken gleamed with an enticing luster. After being marinated with a secret seasoning blend, it was then fried twice repeatedly in hot oil, giving it an extremely crispy texture. The smug Foodie Princess didn't notice the Duke's disdainful look at all. Her newly changed clothes were dirty again, but it was also obvious that this time, she was truly serious. The Duke didn't want to drink beer, but the Foodie Princess looked full of anticipation. Hurry and eat. It won't taste good once it gets cold. The Duke unhurriedly cut open a piece of chicken. He put it into his mouth and chewed slowly. Then he raised his hand, picked up the glass, and took a sip of beer. His leisurely manner made the Foodie Princess frantic. Why isn't this dog man saying anything? He can't dislike it, can he? One sip of beer felt as if it carried a person into a golden wheat field. This was a deliciousness the Duke had never enjoyed before. The Duke put down his utensils and asked what this dish was called. The Foodie Princess was a little nervous. This dish is called original fried chicken. I was asking for your name. The Foodie Princess froze. Did she finally deserve to have a name too? My name is Loanna. The Duke nodded, indicating that he had remembered it. And the rumor circulating within the royal family grew more and more outrageous. It was said that not only had she walked out of the Duke's bedroom alive, she had even been kept constantly by his side. Even more explosive, the Duke had locked up all the other princesses. Even Princess Ingli was no exception. Yet the abandoned princess had instead firmly captured the Duke's heart. A servant threw the food onto the ground. All the royal family members were stunned. Starting today, you will be provided with 2 meals a day. The king found it very strange. Before, they had clearly looked ready to starve them to death. Why were they suddenly being fed again? Could that rumor really be true? The queen revealed a sinister smile. Perhaps they could make good use of that child. A foodie girl transmigrated into a book and became a princess. At first, she had only wanted to eat, sleep, then sleep and eat. Who knew that she would become a cannon fodder, supporting female character instead? Before she was even done dreaming, the country had already fallen. But fortunately, the Foodie Princess was tough enough to survive. Not only did she win over the Duke of the enemy country with her cooking, she also became this aloof Duke's personal little cook. Every day and every night, she made delicious food for the Duke. And so, in order to save the white flower heroine, the Foodie Princess directly used her trump card. She made fried chicken with beer for the aloof Duke. This delicious dish instantly won the Duke over. At the same time, the news quickly spread throughout the entire palace. The vicious queen decided to use the Foodie Princess to take back the empire, and the completely unaware Duke was still ordering around the little cook. From now on, every day you must make different delicacies in rotation. Tomorrow, make one of your signature dishes and let the new emperor try it too. After saying that, he casually tossed her 100 million gold coins as grocery money. The Foodie Princess never in her wildest dreams thought that just making fried chicken could bring her financial freedom. This plot was something even TV dramas wouldn't dare write. But free money was free money. The Foodie Princess hugged the gold coins and ran. She dove headfirst into her room and began planning what precious ingredients to buy for cooking. However, just as the little foodie was deeply focused on her research, a man in a black robe suddenly came looking for her. He wanted the Foodie Princess to drug the Duke's food. The moment those words came out, an image instantly appeared in the foodie's mind. No way. Absolutely no way. Seeing the Foodie Princess's stunned face, the black-robed person revealed her identity. She was the Emperor's maid. In truth, The Foodie princess had always been His Majesty's most beloved youngest daughter. It was only to protect her that she had been made to live in the abandoned palace. Kept in the abandoned palace the whole time. Seriously? Wasn't that obviously treating the princess like an idiot? How many lifetimes of blessings would it take to end up with such a good father? Never mind the ragged clothes. There hadn't even been a bite to eat. But even though this secret sounded absurd, for the sake of her country, the Foodie princess still decided to risk her life and give it a try. After a brief secret discussion, the Foodie princess came to the kitchen and began preparing the delicious ingredients for today's dish. Carrots and garlic, everything went in. Cucumbers, pineapple, lemons, and top-quality pork. That too. High-end ingredients often require only the simplest cooking methods. After bustling around for 2 hours, the Foodie princess made 2 huge basins full of tenderloin. She quietly pushed the food cart into a corner, took out the Dalong brand medicine, and examined it carefully, just as she was about to measure the right dosage according to the instructions. At that exact moment, Rowan suddenly knocked on the door to hurry the meal along. That scare nearly killed the Foodie princess on the spot. Seeing that there was already no chance to make her move, the Foodie could only give up for now, follow Rowan to deliver the meal, and look for another chance later. Very soon, the two arrived at the main hall. The cold duke began solemnly introducing the tenderloin, teaching the emperor how to enjoy it in a more elegant and delicious way. First, you have to coat the tenderloin thoroughly in dipping sauce. That way the flavor will become even richer and more refreshing. Then you also have to say with great feeling, "Tenderloin, tenderloin, I'm going to eat you now, that's the taste." The duke's whole sequence of actions left the emperor dumbfounded. Could it really be that delicious? So he also curiously picked up his fork. The deliciousness burst instantly in his mouth. This feeling was simply too satisfying. To think that I've eaten all sorts of delicacies from land and sea, yet I never expected it could still taste this good. You shall be richly rewarded. Seeing that the matter had finally been muddled through, the Foodie finally breathed a sigh of relief. That night, she was thinking about how to get the duke to drink the medicine. Unexpectedly, the duke suddenly lifted the Foodie's blanket. With a thump, the Foodie princess seized the chance to throw herself into the duke's arms. "I didn't do it on purpose. You were the one who pulled me down," and the Foodie princess's face instantly turned red like a date. At that moment, the little bottle of medicine also made a most untimely appearance. The duke snatched the bottle away in one go. Good grief, is this poison or a dinner drink? Let me have a taste and see whether this flavor is good or not. The moment he finished speaking, the duke downed the medicine in one gulp, and even conveniently let out an ethereal little burp. That move left the Foodie princess completely dumbfounded. She angrily grabbed the duke and questioned him. "Do you have a death wish? That was medicine from 82. It'll kill you." The duke didn't care in the slightest. "That's all? Is there a prize under the cap? How about another bottle?" The little Foodie princess never expected that the black-robed person hadn't said this stuff would make people stupid after drinking it. According to the plot, wasn't she supposed to be the one feeding him the medicine? How is there someone who would voluntarily drink it? By the time she reacted, not a single drop remained in the little bottle. However, what filled her with even more question marks was that the duke then kicked her out of the room. Early the next morning, he executed the king and queen. The stunned Foodie was completely dumbfounded. What exactly was going on? Could it be that the medicine really had drugged the duke stupid? The real reason, however, was that the medicine was not Dalong brand at all. It was Jeanlian brand medicine, the kind that makes people end up with a little baby. In order to avoid rumors and gossip with the Foodie princess, the duke forcibly suppressed his surging hormones and drove her out. Anyone could tell with half a thought that this definitely had not been the Foodie princess's own intention. After all, in the entire kingdom, there was no second silly little phoenix princess whose country had already fallen and who still cared only about eating. The people behind this had to be the king and queen, and very soon, news of the pair's cold deaths also reached the little Foodie's ears. Rowan had thought she would break down crying, but who knew the Foodie's eyes contained only delicious food? Besides, those two weren't really her parents to begin with. What mattered most was still the duke. Yesterday's medicine hadn't taken her down, so he probably hadn't felt good himself either. She still had to make him a nourishing meal. Hearing this, Rowan immediately beamed with joy. What great fortune the duke truly had. He began imagining the two of them staying alone in one room until dawn last night, and he never expected the little Foodie to still be this energetic. Seriously, 666. The Foodie princess looked at Rowan speechlessly, wanting to say something but stopping herself. There was no other way. To keep him from continuing to let his imagination run wild, she could only have him deliver the soup first. When the duke saw that the little Foodie had not come, his face was full of displeasure. Why didn't the little Foodie come today? Rowan scratched his head and explained that the princess still had to prepare other delicacies, so she asked him to bring an appetizer first. Hearing that, the duke's aura instantly became even more gloomy and terrifying. Anyone who didn't know better might have thought he wanted to eat Rowan too. After calming down for a moment, the duke did not intend to pursue the matter. After all, he had just killed her parents, so she might be grieving. Better look at today's menu first. This is a delicious tomato beef soup. It also has potatoes and carrots added in. It was slowly simmered over low heat in a clay pot. making it unbelievably delicious. Listening to Rowan's introduction, the Duke took a small sip first, and the deliciousness instantly exploded across his taste buds. The tenderness of the beef, combined with the gentle sweetness brought by the potatoes and carrots, and then the sweet and sour flavor of the tomato awakened his taste buds all over again. After just one sip, people could not help but want a second. Oh my god, this is addictive, way too addictive. The Duke, who kept eating, was completely unable to think. Was the little foodie not coming because she was blaming him? If she blamed him for killing the king and queen, would that mean he would never get to eat her cooking again in the future? This girl really was bold. She actually dared to praise another man in front of her own man. By the time she came back to her senses, her man's jealousy was already about to explode. And this whole disturbance was actually caused by nothing more than a serving of sweet and sour pork. Originally, the Duke had only wanted to report to the blonde emperor that he had found a treasure. Before arriving at the imperial palace, the Duke had still been worried. He had killed the little foodie's parents. Would she hate him for it? But who would have thought that the little foodie would be unbelievably happy, chatting merrily with her under the big tree? Seeing this, the Duke stopped thinking too much about it. He brought the little foodie along and proudly showed her off in front of the emperor. She made a fragrant plate of sweet and sour pork for the two of them. Who would have known that the large portion the little foodie specially made for the Duke would be taken by a maid and given to the blonde emperor instead? And then it was misunderstood as her trying to win the emperor's favor with food because he was more handsome. Oh my god. The little foodie was so embarrassed her toes were practically digging out a 3-bedroom apartment. Luckily, the Duke stepped in just in time to explain that that portion had originally been his. Only then was that awkward scene finally resolved. After taking a bite, the emperor immediately beamed with joy, smiling all over his face. He said that he liked this dish very much. He had not expected this little foodie to really be such a treasure. In the future, she should come to the palace often and cook for him. The little foodie was dumbfounded by the emperor's reaction. Was this man in front of her really the tyrant of rumor? No matter how she looked at him, he did not seem like one. Instead, he looked more like a long-legged heartthrob from a romance drama. After the meal ended, the two had just gotten into the carriage. The little foodie actually started praising the blonde emperor right to his face. Although the emperor had a rather bizarre hairstyle, if you looked carefully, he was actually very handsome and not as scary as she had imagined. This whole string of flattery not only failed to make the Duke happy, it instead overturned an old jar of jealousy. The Duke interrupted her with a face full of killing intent. What? Have you fallen for him? Do you want to be empress? The Duke's words caught the little foodie off guard. Was he jealous? Sure enough, her charm could not be underestimated. Before entering the palace, the Duke had already warned her. She absolutely must not fall in love with a blonde emperor. Sigh. This damn charm of hers really was impossible to resist. So she went along with it and began expressing her views on love. To be honest, the emperor really was graceful and charming, but compared with Lord Duke, he still fell a little short. I like your unruly side even more. After saying that, she looked at the Duke with sparkling eyes, and now it was the Duke's turn to lose his composure. This little thing really knew how to flirt. But how could this male god be taken down so easily? To hide the panic in his heart, the Duke did not dare look at her again and turned his head to the side. All the teasing and flirting between the two was completely seen by the emperor upstairs. That made him think of what the Duke had once said. Was it true or not? At the time, the Duke had said that this little thing was a witch, and that because he ate her cooking, he was able to taste flavor again. That was why he kept the little foodie by his side. But judging from what was happening before his eyes, they looked more like a couple. And when he was gossiping, although the Duke verbally denied their relationship, his gaze had never once left the little foodie. He had seen all of this clearly with his own eyes. From this point of view, this little thing did not seem like a witch at all. Instead, she seemed more like an animal trainer in a zoo, as if she were taming the beast that was the Duke. Even he himself felt as if he had been domesticated by her too. How interesting. Soon, the carriage returned to the Duke's residence. The moment she got out, the little foodie was so shocked that she froze on the spot. She had grown up this much and had never seen such a luxurious mansion. No wonder the Duke could casually spend 100 million gold coins on a meal. If she handled this relationship a little better, would she not have mountains of gold and silver in the future? Just as she was about to ask whether she could stay here forever, the Duke turned around and left without even looking back. This man really was a giant jar of vinegar. He was still angry even now. At this moment, the butler came forward smiling to welcome her. He thoughtfully picked up the little foodie's luggage for her and brought her to a room so luxurious it was almost inhuman. Your Highness the Princess, you will live here from now on. I will arrange a personal maid for you as soon as possible. After saying that, he looked at the little foodie with eyes full of satisfaction, as if he were looking at the future young mistress of the house. The way he looked at her made the little foodie feel uncomfortable all over. In order to help the two get along more harmoniously in the future, the butler immediately began praising the Duke. Although the Duke usually looked murderous, and his expression was always icy cold, he was actually a very good person. Most importantly, he was also extremely rich. Hidden in all those words was the clear suggestion that the little foodie should seize the opportunity and quickly win over the Duke. Then she would have everything. The more he talked, the more ridiculous it became. The little foodie really could not take it anymore, so she could only say she was tired and quickly send the butler away. Seriously, what was wrong with these people? From beginning to end, all she wanted was to lie flat. So how had she gotten tangled up with the Duke again? The one who was supposed to be sweet and loving with the Duke was obviously Ingli. She herself was completely and utterly just a supporting character. There was no reason for her to end up with the protagonist. A cruel emperor and a cruel Duke. Both of them were people who killed like it was nothing. She still wanted to live a couple more years. She did not want to throw away her life so quickly. Better let these protagonists fight it out themselves. Half asleep and half awake, the little foodie fell asleep. When she woke up again, the moon was practically shining on her little butt. Her stomach had started growling from hunger too. For Foodie, this was really a bit miserable. No, she had to get something to eat. So the little foodie sneaked into the kitchen again. After searching around for a while, she finally found them. A few bottles of milk of unknown age, along with a few pieces of bread and one onion. First, she chopped the onion into countless tiny pieces and stir-fried it until fragrant, then immediately poured in the breadcrumbs too. Then she added 500 milliliters of water and simmered it slowly over low heat. After the bread had fully absorbed the flavor, she turned up the heat to reduce the liquid and finally poured in the milk and sprinkled in sesame seeds and salt. A fragrant pot of bread porridge was done. When she saw the delicious food, the little foodie could not help taking a small taste first. This was the flavor. It was so delicious. At that moment, a sudden sound of footsteps was heard. The little foodie jumped in fright. "Who's there? I saw you." When no one responded, she chased after the sound. She looked around for a long time and did not see a single person. Could it be a ghost? The little foodie trembled with fear. But as a professional eater, one basic principle was that food had to be protected. So she found a place to sit and decided to stuff herself first. But before she could even lift the spoon, the Duke came over. He plopped down beside the little foodie and said, "Why did you run to the garden this late?" But while he spoke, his eyes stayed fixed on her bread porridge. If not for the sake of his status, he would definitely have lifted the lid immediately by now. Only after calming down for quite a while did the little foodie open the lid. "This is the bread porridge I just made. Duke, would you like to try some?" Faced with the little foodie's invitation, the Duke once again put on that unruly attitude and said that he did not want any, because eating too much at night would make him gain weight. In truth, it was not that the Duke did not want to eat. Rather, he had a bit of psychological trauma toward liquid food. Ever since he had been cursed by the witch, nothing he ate in this world had any taste. Whether it was foul, salty, or poisonous, he could not taste it. So even poison he could drink like milk. But what the little foodie made was different. When the bread porridge was set on his lap, the Duke was practically drooling into it. At last, unable to hold back any longer, he began shoveling it down. Once again, the delicious flavor exploded in the Duke's mouth. The soft bread, combined with the unique aroma of milk, blended together, and with the nutty fragrance brought by the sesame seeds, it made people want one bite after another, unable to stop at all. Watching the Duke eat big mouthfuls, the little foodie felt both happy and a little heartbroken. If it were not for her appearance, this man before her might never be able to feel the true taste of food. No matter what it was, as long as she made it, the Duke would definitely eat it. In no time, the Duke finished every last drop of the bread porridge. He did not leave even one bite for the little foodie, but she did not mind at all. Instead, she clenched her little fist and said to the Duke, "As long as I'm here, I'll definitely fatten you up nice and plump, just like a little pig in a pigsty." The little foodie's words made the Duke freeze slightly. He had heard that witches were best at feeding people. Then when the time was ripe, they would eat them in one bite. "No, I'm not." Before finishing, and regardless of whether the Duke agreed or not, she grabbed his hand and insisted on making a pinky promise. "Pinky swear, hanging by the hook, we won't change for 100 years. I swear, I definitely won't eat you, you little black pig. From now on, Lord Duke, you have to eat every meal I make, okay?" The sincere smile shining through the moonlight was so moving. The Duke only felt as if his heart were about to melt. "Woman, you really have my heart in the palm of your hand." The delicacies the girl had carefully made were called garbage by the head chef and were about to be thrown away. Even dogs wouldn't eat this kind of thing. But in the very next second, he was brutally proven wrong. The Duke, who had eaten every delicacy imaginable and suffered from loss of appetite for more than 10 years, actually ate the food until not a single bit was left. Even the plate seemed to be gleaming. This unexpected upstart completely caught the head chef off guard. He had devoted himself to serving the Duke for more than 10 years. Although he had never managed to let the Duke taste flavor, every dish had been his labor of love. And after trying so hard for so long, all he wanted was to one day create something delicious enough to satisfy the Duke. He had never expected all of this to be disrupted by the little foodie. Even his own position might be replaced. He was so angry, he practically felt smoke rising from his ancestors' graves, and in a fit of rage, he decided to challenge the little foodie to a cooking competition. The winner stays, the loser leaves. And the poor little foodie had absolutely no idea. Without meaning to, she had stepped on someone else's cake again. This two-dimensional world was actually competitive to this extent. Completely unaware, she was still with the butler, going to deliver today's delicacies prepared for the Duke. She was so happy along the way, like a little monkey bouncing and skipping. The moment she entered, she ran into the Duke before he had finished getting dressed. His sturdy body instantly came into view before the two of them. The little foodie's face turned red like a light bulb in an instant, and she quickly turned around, helplessly seeing that the little foodie would not recover anytime soon. The butler had no choice but to personally push the dining cart forward, feeling somewhat nervous inside. The Duke never ate breakfast. Would he really eat breakfast today? But despite his anxiety, the butler still lifted the lid. Today's meal was bacon-wrapped sausages with souffle cake. The side dish was cranberry cheese salad, and the drink was a steaming cup of milk tea. After hearing the introduction, the Duke immediately picked up his fork impatiently. Hearing the sound, the little foodie turned around and grinned, showing a row of big white teeth. She hurried over to the Duke and continued the introduction. I especially added egg whites to the cake, so it'll taste even lighter and bouncier. The butler, who had never seen the Duke eat like this before, was tense the entire time as he watched the Duke put the food into his mouth. Then he took one bite after another, unable to stop, and before long he had eaten everything clean. Seeing this, the butler was so moved that tears filled his eyes. In more than 10 years, this was the first time he had seen the Duke eat with such appetite. It was almost like a sow that had been starving all day, licking even the plate perfectly clean. It seemed that this little foodie had truly wrapped the Duke around her finger. Last night, he had been hiding in the dark and observing the whole time. At first, he had thought it was only a coincidence, but he had not expected it to be real. Could this be the taste of love? After the plates were empty again, the little foodie hummed a tune as she pushed the dining cart out of the Duke's room. In her heart, she was already thinking about what to cook for the Duke next. At that moment, Wei, who had been waiting a long time, stepped out. He gave the little foodie a deep bow. Although he had not thought highly of her at first, he had been secretly watching from outside just now, and he had never expected the Duke to really eat all the food. You had to know that his lifelong dream was to make food the Duke loved, but for more than 10 years, he had never succeeded. Now that the little foodie had arrived and snatched away his job in one move, he refused to accept it and decided to compete with her. The little foodie was stunned on the spot by Wei's words and for a moment did not know how to respond. At just that moment, Rowan also walked over. Not only did he want to watch the drama, he even volunteered to be a judge. What a rare treat. Seriously. The little foodie was speechless. It was not like she had agreed yet. At this time, the attendant at the side could not stand it anymore and very gentlemanly apologized to the little foodie on Wei's behalf. Wei's not very quick-witted. He may have been cooking for over 10 years and gotten a bit too obsessed. He has never received Lord Duke's approval. Please don't stoop to his level. The attendant's words surprised the little foodie a little. For someone who truly loved food, this really was too cruel. So she shouted loudly to Wei, who was just about to leave. Fine, I accept your challenge. Let's settle this with our cooking skills. The two of them hit it off immediately, and they even invited the butler to be the referee, as well as 2 lucky fans to serve as judges. Soon, the competition between the two officially began. Wei was first to heat the oil and begin making his dish. Meanwhile, on the other side, the little foodie was still running around searching everywhere for ingredients. An hour passed, and she was still dashing here and there. Wei found it a little hard to believe. Could someone like this really make delicious food? A smile rose at the corner of Wei's mouth. It seemed that he already had this round in the bag. Not long afterward, Wei's dish was finished. A steak perfect in color, aroma, and taste appeared before everyone. This was his proudest work, and the tasters all praised it one after another. Wei's heart was full of joy. Then they looked at the little foodie. They had thought she would be flustered and fumbling, but who knew she would instead stare intently at the delicious dish Wei had made. She even asked Wei whether, after the contest was over, he could let her have a taste too, as if she had already forgotten this was a competition. Wei was completely bewildered by the little foodie's string of actions. Why did she not feel any sense of crisis at all? After getting Wei's agreement, the little foodie continued working on her own dish. Before long, it was finally finished. Done. This is the dish I'm most confident in, creamy bacon fried chicken. This dish absolutely has to be eaten while it's hot. Once it cools down, it won't taste good. Listening to the little foodie's introduction, Wei hardly hesitated at all. Creamy bacon fried chicken could actually be made like this? Most importantly, this was actually still a chicken dish. The little foodie was smiling all over. She felt this was perfectly normal. As long as the most delicious food could be made, ingredients could naturally be mixed and matched freely. After saying that, she picked up the fried chicken and held it out in front of Wei. Head chef, why don't you have a bite too? Wei slowly picked up a piece of fried chicken in disbelief, then slowly put it into his mouth. The deliciousness instantly exploded in his mouth. Oh my god. This flavor was incredible. The chicken was not only crispy, but also perfectly blended with the cream. And with the onion as a finishing touch, it even cut through the richness as soon as it entered the mouth. Every detail had been considered. I lost completely and wholeheartedly. Your Highness, your cooking skills are truly amazing, and you even dare to try all kinds of novel combinations. But I have remained trapped in tradition all this time. Please forgive my previous recklessness. Whatever punishment you give me, I will accept it. Wei's words left the little foodie both surprised and startled. She quickly helped the bowing Wei back up and said that the reason she had competed with him was actually not to decide whose cooking was stronger. It was to let everyone eat even better food. The little foodie's words moved everyone once again. And the butler standing to the side looked even more satisfied. It seemed Lord Duke had not misjudged her. Her Highness the Princess really was the most suitable Duchess. But Wei, I still have one request. Because I just arrived at the Duke's residence, there are many things I don't understand yet. I hope you can guide me more in the future. This grace, knowing when to yield and when to stand firm, made Wei feel ashamed of himself. Of course, I will definitely teach you everything without holding anything back. You are truly the best chef I have ever met in my life. From now on, let me assist you in making even more and even better delicacies for Lord Duke and the fans who keep liking them. With the free labor Wei, she started making traditional soybean paste. Just thinking that she would soon be able to eat kimchi pancakes and kimchi soup made with soybean paste was enough to make her drool even in her dreams. Just as the little foodie and Wei were holding hands and expressing thanks, the study in the Duke's residence was already heavy with dark clouds. How old is the head chef this year again? The butler answered that although the head chef was only 20, he had been hired into the residence because his cooking skills were superb. The Duke remembered now. Although this person was not very useful, he and the little foodie happened to share the common topic of cooking. Just thinking about this made the Duke feel uncomfortable all over. Even the butler could not help asking whether he had boils growing on his body. He even suggested asking the little foodie to brew a cup of tea and bring it over. That suggestion struck right at the Duke's heart. Yes, do that. Watching the little foodie bustle around for him, the Duke's mood finally improved. Although you didn't tell me, you handled the matter with the head chef quite well. Go ahead. What reward do you want? Faced with this sudden generosity from her golden thigh, the little foodie opened her sparkling eyes wide and asked, "Can I go to the market fair? There are already so many ingredients at home. Isn't that enough for you to mess around with?" "Oh, come on. Personally going to look and choose things is part of the fun. And I'm also really curious about the local specialties. Don't worry, I never thought about running away. If you're not at ease, I can go with Wei." The Duke had just taken a sip of tea when he instantly sprayed it out. "You want to go out alone together? Dream on." The Duke wiped his mouth and told the little foodie, "If you really want to go, then when I'm free, I'll go with you." The little foodie looked shocked. "Aren't you very busy?" No matter how busy he was, he could not let that brat of a head chef overtake him halfway. "There's something else I need to tell you." Back in the kitchen, the little foodie washed dishes while spacing out. Seeing this, Wei walked over and asked what should be prepared for the Duke's lunch. The little foodie gave a soft sigh. "No need to prepare it. Dinner won't be needed either." The little foodie told Wei that starting today, the Duke would be entering the palace and eating lunch and dinner there, so only breakfast needed to be prepared. Looking at the little foodie, who was dejected because she could not cook for the Duke, Wei completely understood how she felt, because he had gone through it too. Wei's fighting spirit instantly flared up, and on the spot he transformed into the little foodie's #1 fanboy. The little foodie only wanted to say, "Kid, you don't understand anything at all." After all her hard work feeding him during this period, she had finally managed to raise the Duke from this into this. If he did not eat well outside, and came back with a worse temper again, who was going to compensate her with a gentle Lord Duke? The little foodie was practically on the verge of tears, and the Duke looked like a very busy man. The time he spent in the palace definitely would not be just 1 or 2 days. What was she supposed to do? As a knight of the empire, the harder the training was, the better the food tasted when it was time to eat. However, as the commander of the knights, the Duke could not experience that at all. With one bite, it was basically like eating crap. It was so disgusting it made one want to vomit. Fortunately, someone sent by His Majesty came to summon him. Looking at that steak that inspired absolutely no appetite, the Duke decisively chose work over eating. The next morning, the Duke was just about to head out when he saw basket after basket of food boxes stacked neatly at the front door of his house, and he was stunned on the spot. "What are these?" The little foodie gave a warm reminder. These were all loving bento boxes personally made by her, and he had to finish them all. The Duke wanted to refuse. The food in the palace was provided uniformly. It really was not very appropriate for only him to do something special. "But what you're eating doesn't taste good. I prepared enough for 2 meals, lunch, and dinner." The little foodie even thoughtfully suggested that since there was a bit much, they should first move it onto the carriage. "It may be a bit troublesome, but I really made it sincerely, and it's really delicious." Who could resist delicious food, especially when paired with a wife acting cute? As ridiculous as it was, the one who entered the palace with the Duke actually included another carriage. The Emperor asked who was sitting inside the carriage. But there was no most ridiculous, only more ridiculous. The carriage was actually loaded with a whole cart of baskets. The Emperor burst out laughing on the spot. "Interesting. Quickly call the Duke over so I can ask him." The dignified Emperor of a whole nation was actually snatching the Duke's loving bento to eat. Faced with the Duke's dark expression, he felt no shame at all, and instead wore it like a badge of honor. After all, what normal household needed a carriage just to haul lunchboxes? The Duke was so embarrassed his toes were curling. Who knew that woman would actually raise him like a pig? The Emperor immediately held out his hand. "Then let me help share some. You shouldn't have any objections, right? Does the look in my eyes seem like I have no objections?" On the surface, the Duke agreed, but in reality, he was already sharpening his blade. The Emperor secretly laughed so hard. "Sure enough, if you want to capture a man's heart, You first have to capture his stomach. He had only touched it a little, and the Duke was already so displeased that cold air was practically coming off his whole body. But with so much delicious food, the next matter could be discussed slowly. While they were fighting over the food, the little foodie had already zoned out, who knew how many times. First, she almost smashed her beloved soybean paste jar, put the seasonings into different boxes, and then almost fell so badly, she would have been half paralyzed. My idol. What on earth is wrong with you? Her fangirl-level little fanboy way asked with a soul-searching question. The little foodie stammered, her face red. She could not exactly say that her heart had long since flown away with the Duke's bento boxes. She did not know whether the food had gone bad or how it tasted. Finally, the old butler knocked on the kitchen door. Lord Duke has returned. The little foodie immediately sprinted at top speed like she was going 800 miles an hour, and in just 3 seconds rushed right in front of the Duke. Was my bento delicious? The Duke thought, what kind of attitude is that? Is the only thing you care about the bento? But seeing the woman act cute and unreasonable again, he still could not help blushing like an old fool and muttered softly, it was delicious. His Majesty was very satisfied too. The little foodie's eyes instantly lit up. She had never expected even His Majesty to become her fan, who knew that when the Duke saw this, his expression became even more displeased, and he told her not to bring bento tomorrow. How can that work? I was planning to really show off my skills tomorrow. Tomorrow you're going to the palace with me, so was this the rhythm of getting an official post? However, when she excitedly rushed to the palace, what she saw was her sister Ingli in a weak and powerless state. Ingli, who had already been starving herself for a long time, only wanted to ascend to heaven and reunite with her parents. The moment she saw the little foodie, she thought she was hallucinating again. But that weakly outstretched hand was warmly grasped by the little foodie. Tears instantly streamed down. The little foodie felt so heartbroken that she could hardly bear it. She hurriedly prepared a bowl of barley porridge to nourish her sister's stomach. But Ingli still hesitated. She truly did not understand. After losing everything, your parents, your country, your people, how can you still be so optimistic? The little foodie thought for a moment, maybe it's because what we lost is different. What I lost was tattered clothes, a ruined palace not even dogs would live in, and that scumbag father I'd never even met. After all, she had been an abandoned princess from the start. Ingli froze. She truly had never thought about it that way. Her body trembled violently with guilt. The little foodie hurried to explain that it wasn't that she couldn't understand her sister's pain. Quite the opposite. She too had once had nothing at all. But back then, she hadn't thought about what she had lost. She had thought about what she still had, and what she could still do while alive. As long as you're alive, there's still hope, right? The little foodie's bright, cheerful smile was like a ray of light, instantly illuminating Ingli's darkened heart. At last, she began to eat. It was only a simple bowl of barley porridge, yet she ate it with tears streaming down her face. After eating, she could no longer hold on and fell into a deep sleep. But the hand by her pillow was still tightly clutching the little foodie. The emperor, who had rushed over, said he was very satisfied and even wanted to personally take her place. What kind of pervert was this? The little foodie immediately stood in front of her sister. Sister is already asleep. Your Majesty, please leave. The emperor's face darkened on the spot. The unlucky Duke jolted in fright and immediately rushed forward, shielding his delicate little wife behind him. He even pressed down on her head and apologized to the emperor. She offended me. Why are you apologizing?
Because she is my woman now.
The moment those sickeningly lovey-dovey words came out, the emperor's face nearly turned black as coal. All of you showing off your romance. Get out of my sight. The Duke swiftly took the little foodie away at top speed, leaving only the emperor standing there alone, questioning life. I'm the emperor, aren't I? Then why am I the one being force-fed this romance? Maybe I should just snatch that little foodie away. Meanwhile, the Duke was obviously mentally exhausted too, but the little foodie was still chattering non-stop, even adorably clenching her little fists and promising that she would definitely turn over a new leaf. What else could the Duke do? Of course, he could only smile and forgive her. Who would have thought that the little foodie would suddenly realize something? Lord Duke, did you just say I'm your woman? The Duke also stiffened all over, and only after quite a while did he turn his head away in embarrassment and anger. You are my prisoner, understand? But that old face of his was so red it looked ready to drip blood. And aside from the silly, adorable little foodie, no one would believe such nonsense. Still, the next day, he kept his promise and took the little foodie to the market. The little foodie had originally wanted to bring along that super capacity big basket, but the old butler stopped her. Porters will deliver everything for you then. Well, in that case, what was there left to say? Looking at the bustling market, the little foodie was even more excited than if she had seen 800 dukes. That made the Duke's face darken on the spot. When he saw she was almost squashed flat by the crowd, he reluctantly stretched out his big hand and pulled her firmly into his arms in one motion. I know you're excited, but you still have to stay close to me. The little foodie instantly blushed. Oh, okay then. Let me hold onto your shirt for a moment, you don't mind, right? The Duke could not help worrying about his own chastity, but obviously, he was overthinking it. The moment the little foodie saw special ingredients. Her eyes immediately lit up and her voice rose. "Buy me this." He watched helplessly as the little foodie flung off his hand and rushed to the vegetable stall to chat enthusiastically with the owner. And he only felt that even the ingredients on the stall were mocking him silently. "What do you want to use this strange fruit for?" "Of course, to make desserts. Smooth chocolate with sweet jam would make something absolutely amazing." "Okay, so I'm doomed to spend my whole life competing with ingredients for affection, am I?" The Duke turned his grief and indignation into spending power, letting her buy whatever she wanted. Even buying out the whole market would be no problem. What kind of domineering CEO line was that? The little foodie was instantly struck. Since that's the case, then I won't hold back. Pulling out the super capacity big basket she had secretly brought, she directly switched into a crazed shopping mode. By the time she finally came back to her senses, she discovered that there was no one by her side anymore. Where was the Duke? Where had that huge Duke of mine gone? The little foodie frantically looked around, so anxious that her face had turned pale. Then she was shoved by the surging crowd and fell hard onto the ground. "This time I'm really going to fall half paralyzed, boo-hoo." Suddenly, a large hand caught her by the waist and pulled her completely into an embrace. She looked up, and her face-con instincts instantly went out of control. Flowing silver hair, dazzling purple eyes. Who could possibly resist that? She hurriedly pulled away from that embrace, only to hear the man accurately call out her name. "Do you know me? How could I not? Alana's child is also all of our child." "That's right, you are." Before she could finish speaking, a 40-meter-long greatsword was already pressed across his neck. The Duke's red eyes surged with killing intent. "I suggest you think very carefully before you speak again. If your answer does not satisfy me, I will cut off your head." Who would have thought that his little wife would actually speak up to stop him, giving that flamboyant drama queen the chance to slip away? The Duke was practically about to explode with rage. As soon as they got home, he put the little foodie under house arrest. The little foodie was so angry she stamped her feet. Her vegetable ingredients still hadn't been delivered back yet. That Duke was way too ruthless. But the Duke himself did not think so, thinking about how that flamboyant bitch had suddenly disappeared, making it obvious that he was not human. And yet the little foodie had actually dared to stop him. The vinegar jar in his heart instantly overturned. "I even said she was my woman. I'm such a colossal fool." Just then the old butler knocked and came in, and without another word, he directly told the old butler to move the little foodie to another place to stay. The little foodie knew nothing about this, and was still taking bite after bite of top-grade steak. Tender, juicy, melting in the mouth. Who could resist this? She wondered whether the Duke had gotten to eat something this delicious. "That doggy I finally fattened up. Don't let him turn around and starve thin again." Just imagining that scene made the little foodie's eyes nearly fill with tears from heartache. But wait a second, he lost his own 800 tons of ingredients and then locked me up here. Then let that bastard starve. The little foodie turned her grief and indignation into appetite and continued wolfing down the premium steak. But she still felt wronged inside. This idiot, fool, petty jerk, lunatic. Just as she was cursing with gusto, suddenly there came a knock at the door behind her, startling her so badly that she jolted. When she opened the door, it turned out to be the old butler, under orders to bring her to another room. Thunder crashed, lightning flashed, and the wind howled as the little foodie walked through the dim basement. She was so scared that her heart nearly leaped out of her chest. The Duke's paranoia was really terminal. Maybe I should just run away. After all, being tortured for information would definitely hurt. Yet in the very next second, all kinds of sweet memories of getting along with the Duke surged uncontrollably through her mind. It's all because of my hopeless, love-struck brain. After that, she was brought before the Duke. The moment the Duke saw her, his eyes turned red, and he fiercely grabbed her hand, demanding in a dark voice, "Who is that flamboyant bitch?" Seeing the way he looked as though he wanted to devour her alive, even the little foodie could not help feeling a little afraid. "Lord Ratchwin, listen to my explanation." "Fine, explain then. Why are you grabbing my hand?" The Duke awkwardly flung away her hand, but in the very next second, his little wife wore an expression like she was about to cry. "During the days I was confined, did you not eat properly?" Who could withstand being cared for like that? Even though he kept brainwashing himself in his heart, saying she was only acting, the Duke still could not help but cover the chest that kept throbbing with pain. He turned and fled in a sorry state, but still did not forget to warn everyone that before receiving his instructions, no one was allowed to touch his little wife. The old butler said he completely understood, but why was your grace running so fast? The Duke, however, was blushing, his heart racing and legs weak, urging him to hurry and call a doctor. "My heart is beating this fast. Could something be wrong with me?" It's just lovesickness. Very common. Just when this little couple seemed about to make up, the vanished flamboyant bitch suddenly learned in a tavern that the little foodie had been locked up by the Duke. Not understanding that this was merely a husband and wife game, he instantly frowned and disappeared on the spot. Surely no one is really coming to steal the Duke's beloved, right? Little foodie, you absolutely have to hold out. What is the highest realm of a foodie? Even after being locked into a prison, she could still go wild in front of luxurious steak. Bite after bite, She simply could not stop until the food was practically at her throat. And only then did she belatedly realize, this can't be my last meal before execution, can it? The little foodie's tears instantly flowed upward into a river. She threw herself onto the bed and cried for a long time before finally speaking her last words. If I'm really going to die this time, can I at least see my sauce jar again? What about my delicious soybean paste? If it's already pickled, then I can make kimchi, boil soup, and after the rich soup comes to a boil, with kimchi that melts in the mouth, thick slices of meat, another sip of spicy hot soup, and finally a spoonful of white rice topped with a piece of rolled omelet. Woo-woo. Drool trickled uncontrollably from the corner of her mouth. On the spot, she took out her notebook and entrusted the big soybean paste jar away. Yet after eating luxurious feasts for a whole month straight, her face glowing rosy and her skin sleek with oil, the little foodie still had not reached her day of death. When she asked the maid, even the maid was speechless, who knew what kind of game the Duke was playing. The Duke said, "I'm treating an illness here. Didn't you see that after that little foodie left, even my 8-pack abs weren't as firm as before?" With a displeased face, he asked the doctor exactly what illness he had and why he would blush, have his heart race, and his legs go weak every time he saw the little foodie. The doctor directly let out a dry laugh. "Is there any chance that this is just the normal reaction of someone who's been single since birth for far too long? Face your own heart, you idiotically straight man. I don't like that little foodie at all." She looks at her soybean paste jar more passionately than she looks at me. Cursed by a witch, so that his family had lost their sense of taste for generations, he swore that he would never let tragedy repeat itself. The problem was, the little foodie had not taken anything from him at all. Instead, she had fed him until he was sleek and glossy. Suddenly, the doctor knocked again. "Did you leave something behind?" "What? I just got here. I haven't even diagnosed you yet." Lord Duke was completely dumbfounded. At the same time, the flamboyant bitch disguised as a doctor had already revealed his true form in front of the little foodie. By the time the Duke hurried over, what he saw was his little wife actually leaning against that flamboyant bastard. He almost burst into tears on the spot, but seeing that his wife had not gone far yet, he could still smile and forgive her. But that flamboyant bastard had to die. Naturally, the flamboyant bastard was not going to sit there and wait to die. With one spell, he summoned purple mist that filled the sky. "Poison doesn't work on me. What about now?" The flamboyant bastard gave a mean little smile. "Sorry, but I'm using magic." Then he tried to wrap an arm around the little foodie and leave at once. The Duke instantly exploded when he saw this, and with a snap bit his own hand. "No one gets to take my wife away." The little foodie was so startled that her soul nearly flew out. "Who's your wife?" "No, wait, who wants to go with him?" Suddenly, she reacted. That flamboyant bastard was a mage. If she could find the cure for the curse from him, then her Duke would never have to suffer again. She immediately clenched her little fists. "Don't worry, I'll definitely come back." The Duke's response was to drop to his knees with a thud. Surely there was no need to go this far just to chase after his wife. He just fell asleep. The flamboyant bastard still wanted to take the chance to eliminate the root of the problem. But inside there was the little foodie crying rivers upward, and outside knights were hurrying over as well. So there was no choice but to let this annoying guy go for now. He efficiently fled with the little foodie. Honestly, this little cottage was really ironic, because inside it had to be at least 80,000 square meters. The little foodie's eyes lit up at the sight. The flamboyant bastard seized the chance to speak. "Aren't you curious what kind of witch your mother was? Compared to that, I'm more curious about the curse on the Duke." The flamboyant bastard was instantly speechless. "Being more into your man, then your mom wasn't supposed to work like this." "Then I don't mind telling you either. The one who cursed the Duke's household was your mother. A 15-year-old girl with a 500-year-old mom, and the kind of mom who, when ruthless enough, could curse her son-in-law's entire family." The little foodie shattered on the spot 80,000 times over. Was the Duke really going to lock her in a dark room? "Hurry up and hand over my mother's diary. I'm about to activate crazy curse-breaking mode." The flamboyant bastard said there was absolutely no problem with that. However, after the little foodie studied hard all night long, she said, "Are you messing with me? This is obviously a cookbook. Although this cookbook is indeed amazing, if you still don't hand over the real volume, I'll throw you straight into an 800-degree oven for 30 minutes. Only then did the flamboyant bastard hand over the second volume, while innocently saying, "Your mother really was a culinary witch. Get lost. Don't disturb this baby while she studies hard." With a whoosh, she ran off without a trace. At last, she discovered the truth in the diary. It turned out that many years ago, her birth mother Alana had once passed through a small town. She had been drawn by the sobbing cries of a sniffling little crybaby. The little crybaby said that the potato bread he made tasted awful, but she simply refused to believe it. Crunch, she took a bite. It nearly cracked one of her molars, and when the little crybaby saw that, he cried even harder. He said he only wanted to do something, like use tasty potato bread to please the new lord. If taxes rose again, his whole family would starve to death. Seeing that sincere expression on the little crybaby's face, Ilana's heart instantly softened. "Don't worry, I'm here. I'm a top-tier cook, and I have a secret recipe. First, mash the potatoes into a smooth puree, then add milk, eggs, flour, and sugar and stir them together. After the ingredients are fully combined, seize the chance to add melted butter and a little beer. After mixing, place it somewhere warm and let it ferment until it triples in size. Knead it to release the air, then divide it into 2 halves and cut cute patterns with a knife. Then finally bake it a little, and the soft, fluffy potato bread will wait. This really won't kill someone, will it? Master and apprentice instantly turned pale with despair. The little crybaby cried so hard he started hiccuping. It's okay. We still have time, you know what to do, right? The culinary witch smiled kindly, and the little crybaby trembled in fear. Putting on the most serious possible attitude, he repeated the process 10,000 times. In the end, they finally made amazing potato bread. The little foodie's mother ate it with a blissful expression. The little crybaby was filled with confidence again. He bent down and gave her a deep bow. Thank you so very much for being willing to go to such trouble for someone like me. That's because you're worth it. The girl fiercely ruffled his hair. After that, he struggled through the crowd and handed the amazing potato bread to the Lord. Under his nervous yet expectant gaze, the Lord finally extended his hand. Then he ruthlessly slapped the bread onto the ground. You dare serve me such shabby trash? The little crybaby froze on the spot. His parents panicked and told him to hurry and apologize to the Lord. Tearful and choking with sobs, he was just about to say sorry. But before he could finish, Alana strode over. She picked up that piece of bread the little crybaby had painstakingly made from the ground. She directly went berserk. It seems your tongue has no need for taste anymore. From this day on, your family shall never taste anything ever again. Mother, it's one thing for you to screw him over, but why did you have to drag the wife-obsessed Duke into it too? The little foodie wilted completely. Was the Duke really going to drag her back and lock her in a dark room? The flamboyant bastard seized the chance to stir the pot madly. Since things are already like this, why not just break up? 3 days from now will be the night of the witches. At that time, you can become a true witch, get promoted and get rich, dump your husband, and never again worry about being locked in a dark room. That was way too ruthless as an attempt to steal someone else's partner, wasn't it? His little wife had only run away from home for 2 days, and the wife-doting Duke was already suffering from backaches, leg cramps, dizziness, and was bedridden. Even in his dreams, all he saw was his little wife turning dark and changing expression, then running away together with that flamboyant bastard. Life was simply unlivable. He immediately told the butler to bring the little foodie's portrait, post it all over the city, and offer a reward of 100 million. Who knew that the old butler would think he wanted to play some darkroom game? He turned around and went to discuss it with Wei. Since Lord Duke wants to go hard, then we can only use that method. No, wait, which one of us is actually your boss? Of course, it's that 100 million gold coins. The onlookers exploded on the spot after seeing the reward notice. Look at this description in the notice: cute, sweet, and a huge eater. It must be a little couple having a lover's quarrel. She runs, he chases. She cannot escape even with wings. Meanwhile, on the other side, the little foodie was being coaxed dizzy by that flamboyant bastard. The moment she heard that becoming a culinary witch would let her inherit her mother's classic cookbook, she was instantly wildly tempted. If the Night of the Witches weren't only held once every 5 years, she would not have hesitated even for those 3 days. Choose one between the Duke and gourmet food. What kind of fatal question was this? The flamboyant bastard hurried to comfort her, telling her to think slowly. Anyway, after she became a witch, that short-lived Duke and even her beloved soybean paste jar would not outlive her. After struggling in indecision for a full 3 days, the little foodie wore a blank expression, her soul nearly drifting away. She had only wanted to cook peacefully, feed the Duke along the way, and have a romance. By chance, she caught sight of that outrageously fragrant meatloaf in the cookbook. At once, the little foodie practically started drooling buckets. She wondered what kind of expression the Duke would show when he ate it. She remembered the happy times she had spent at the Duke's residence, and that wonderful and adorable Duke who could buy the whole market for her. The little foodie truly wished she could run right back at once. But if she became a true witch, would everyone's attitude toward her really still stay the same? Or rather, if she possessed great magic and a long lifespan, would she really still be the same person as before? What if she ended up hating the Duke like her birth mother did? The Duke really would cry. Just then, there suddenly came a knock at the door, startling her so badly that she jolted. She turned her head to look, and it was actually that flamboyant bastard all dressed up sleek and shiny. Seeing that she was still somewhat hesitant, he actually began miserably playing the pity card. My relationship with your mother was far from ordinary. As the only man among the witches, he said that he had been weak in magic since childhood and had always been rejected. Only Alana had been willing to drink the herbal juice he made with his own hands, and willing to be his good friend. Although he frantically insisted there was really no need, the first-generation little foodie still insisted on doing it. His little face reddened, his heart skipped a beat, and unable to resist, he handed over the herbal juice. The first-generation little foodie immediately chugged 3 huge cups on the spot. Just when he thought he had finally found a kindred spirit, in the very next second, he spat out a mouthful of blood and felt chilled to the core. I already told you not to drink it. How could a foodie possibly have something she wouldn't dare try? The girl smiled brilliantly. She left him with unforgettable youthful memories, and also left him her own secret hot cocoa, which he drank from childhood into adulthood. In saying all this, what he really wanted to tell the little foodie was that even after becoming a witch, Alana had still lived very happily. So he also hoped that Alana's daughter could become a witch and obtain her own happiness. It seemed he truly meant well, and that only made the little foodie even more conflicted. How exactly was she supposed to choose? Pressing her lips together, she thought for a long time and finally made up her mind. I've decided. This time, the love-struck Duke really paid a heavy price. Not only did he put up a reward of 100 million, he even held a grand cooking competition, all just to find his runaway little wife. The noble ladies who came because of his fame, even if they had to hire cooks to make dishes for them, still wanted to seize the chance to get closer to the Duke. The Emperor also received an invitation saying that the Duke was going to make a big move. Ingli hugged the Emperor tightly from behind, her eyes brimming with love. The Emperor secretly made up his mind that this time, he would definitely make the Duke watch him properly show off his affection. Yet in truth, all of this had been secretly planned by the butler. He was preparing to find a new love for Lord Duke. Although the head chef did not approve, he could not stop the butler's overflowing enthusiasm. He could only stay by the little foodie's big soybean paste jar. But whether it was only his imagination or not, he kept feeling as if someone had come by. The Duke himself, meanwhile, was utterly baffled. You actually dared do this behind my back? But in a fit of anger, the Duke's headache flared up again. The butler looked innocent. This is something you personally stamped and approved, Your Grace.
Huh?
What nonsense. Why don't I remember that? The butler instantly did not dare make a sound, because he had gotten it approved while the Duke was suffering through a hangover. Although the method was a bit despicable, it really was for the Duke's own good. With a serious face, the butler told the Duke that this matter had already been settled and could not be changed. But the Duke had no hope in it at all. The butler snapped his fingers. The dishes that had passed the preliminary selection were brought before the Duke. If, after tasting these, the Duke still felt that this competition was meaningless, then he would resign from his post as butler. Are you really taking it that far? The Duke reached out and scooped up a spoonful. The very next second, he coughed the soup right back out. Then he reached for the second plate. He had only just finished tasting it when he looked at the butler with a constipated expression. Even so, the Duke still continued on to taste the third dish. As he ate, he pondered in his heart what punishment he should give the butler. However, in the next second, the Duke suddenly widened his eyes. This familiar recipe, this familiar taste. The Duke hurried eagerly toward the dining table. The butler presented the dish made by that person to the Duke. Watching the Duke start eating and chewing heartily again, the butler could not help but become nervous as well. Hearing the Duke ask for his opinion, he also felt that this dish was very special. He had heard that special spices were used. Could it be that the Duke's fated bride had appeared? The Duke was also full of shock. He could actually taste flavors again. He wanted to meet the person who made this dish, but the butler deliberately kept him in suspense. That contestant had already advanced to the finals, and the Duke would be able to see her tomorrow. At last, the final round of the cooking competition arrived, and today's theme was freestyle cooking. The judges were the butler and the head chef. Also attending in full dress were the Emperor and Duke Ingli, who had come to watch the drama. The moment the competition timer started, the Emperor asked the Duke whether he had taken a fancy to anyone, but the Duke only wanted to eat. He had not even tasted the dishes yet, so how could he choose? But the Emperor had heard that this competition had been held in the first place to choose the Duke's wife. A red-haired girl caught the Emperor's attention. She was actually cooking with rare lobster. First, melt butter over low heat in a preheated pan, then add onion, fresh cream, and herbs, and then pour in white wine and seafood stock for flavor. Next, she added her secret spice blend. She put the shelled lobster meat back into the shell, poured the finished sauce over it, and then sent it into the oven to bake. Finally, she sprinkled parsley and parmesan over the baked lobster. And just like that, a delicious grilled lobster was complete. If the sauce did not feel like enough, it could also be used as a dip. After the butler and head chef tasted it a little, both found it stunning. The lobster, steamed and baked, and then topped with piping hot sauce, became tender and fragrant after being prepared this way. The Emperor even wanted to bring her back to the palace as a cook, but in the face of unanimous praise from the judges, the lobster that everyone else found delicious was like chewing wax to the Duke. Although it had almost no taste, it was already impressive enough, and that was the highest praise the Duke could give. The host hurried out to smooth things over. At this moment, another contestant also finished her dish. Compared with the complicated grilled lobster, her dish did not take too long. As Maluya plated the portions, she explained it to everyone. This dish first uses milk to soak the chicken and remove the odor. Then a day in advance, it is marinated with pepper, salt, and garlic. After that, it is coated in batter and fried twice, and finally stir-fried in her secret sauce. And thus this sauce-coated fried chicken was made. Everyone at the judges' table found it incredible. The sweet and spicy sauce removed the greasiness of the fried chicken, making every piece of crispy coating stand out. Even the Emperor wanted another serving. However, the Duke suddenly stood up. He strode toward Maluya. Under the shocked and confused gazes of everyone present, he directly pinned someone beneath him. Even the host was dumbfounded. The Duke stared fixedly at the strange woman before him. Then he loudly announced that this was his new chef. Was this not way too sudden? Was he looking for a cook or a partner? When someone in the crowd voiced opposition, the gossip-loving Emperor immediately made the final call. He congratulated the Duke on finding a new chef on the spot. He even told the Duke to bring the new chef into the palace with him in the future. After the Duke thanked the Emperor, he pulled Maluya along toward the bedroom. Following behind him, Maluya wanted to find a chance to explain, but the Duke turned around and pinned her against the wall. What excuse are you trying to make this time? What excuse are you trying to make this time, little glutton? Maluya wanted to say that she was not a little glutton, but the Duke told her to stop playing dumb. Did she think he could not tell it was her food? The chicken soup was one thing, but at the very least, she should have improved that fried chicken. The seasoning used in that dish smelled exactly the same as the sauce jar in the backyard. The Duke grabbed the little foodie's face in one hand. What kind of outfit is this now? You actually left me behind and ran away. Are you trying to join hands with them to kill me now? Hearing that, the little foodie was so wronged, she was almost in tears. She directly pushed the Duke away. You men are far too heartless. At this moment, the Emperor found Ingli wandering around the Duke's estate. Alarm bells instantly rang in his mind. Are you here looking for the Duke? Ingli was clearly very disappointed. She had thought she would see her younger sister at the competition. But in the end, she did not. Only then did the Emperor suddenly remember that he still had not told Ingli that the little princess was quite incredible now. At this time, the little foodie was roaring at the Duke like a furious lioness. The Duke was left in a mess in the wind. Was he being scolded right now? It was obviously you who first put a bounty out for me and had me hunted, and I clearly said I would come back. I said I would come back after finding a way to break the curse. Did I not make a promise with you that I would definitely return? After being fiercely lectured by his wife, the Duke instantly wilted and obediently listened as the little foodie told him about all the hardships she had gone through. She had finally managed to escape, only to look up and see her own wanted poster. The Duke's heart softened immediately. His wife had actually betrayed even her own kind just to return to his side. The little foodie's tears stopped at once. It was not actually that exaggerated. Feeling his wife's love again, the Duke's face turned completely red all at once. When he heard the little foodie say that she had become a professional witch, the Duke's head was filled with the thought that his delicate little wife had betrayed her own kind just to keep her promise to him. The world fell silent in an instant. The little foodie was so frightened she did not dare speak. That harmonious and touching reunion scene she had imagined in her plans shattered in an instant. What awaited her was the Duke's shy follow-up question. Can you lift my curse now? The little foodie was a little unhappy because she still had not found a way. Then, what did you come back for? Oh no, the Duke was going to get angry. The little foodie hurriedly explained, but you cannot eat anything except the food I make. The Duke's face instantly flushed red. She really loves me that much. However, in the next second, the little foodie mentioned the one who had cooked lobster in today's competition. Should they not explain things clearly to her? The Duke looked blank. Explain what? The little foodie looked innocent. Of course. Ask her to come be the new chef. Did you not also say she was very capable? When the little foodie said that she could not possibly cook for him for the rest of her life, the Duke immediately threw out a soul-searching question. Why not? Why can it not be for a lifetime? The little foodie's face instantly turned as red as a monkey's, but did this man know what he was saying? She had just wanted to open her mouth to explain, but the Duke turned around and refused to keep communicating. I know you want to give that contestant prize money and an opportunity. If that is what you want, I can satisfy you, but I also have one condition. Early the next morning, the little foodie was stuffed into a bath and scrubbed clean from head to toe. And the Duke also prepared a whole backstory. Maluya had returned to her hometown because of an urgent matter. The little foodie had secretly run outside to cook and ended up being trafficked, and in the end she found her way back through her own efforts. Although this setup was outrageous, the little foodie still memorized it word for word. After all, compared with the truth that she was a witch, or that she had run away herself as in the original version of the story, this version really was easier for people to accept. And the condition proposed by the Duke was actually very simple. The little foodie, dressed in elegant clothes, appeared especially poised. The Duke personally helped her into the carriage. Even the maids in the manor had begun to wonder, feeling that something between the two of them had quietly changed. And at this moment, the Duke in the carriage was very dissatisfied. Can you not act a little more intimate? The little foodie now regretted it desperately. She never should have agreed to the Duke's outrageous request. Now, she actually had to pretend to be lovers and start a contract romance with the Duke. The Duke gave his reason in all seriousness. The cooking tournament had already been misunderstood as him choosing a bride, and the little foodie, having betrayed her own kind, also needed strict protection, so it was completely reasonable for her to stay by his side as his lover. The little foodie was in tears, since when had the arrogant Duke ever cared about other people's opinions? Could this actually be another form of punishment? Looking at the Duke with his pleased expression, yet still sitting across from her coldly without speaking, the little foodie was on the verge of collapse. She was really worried that her background would make the Duke lose all reputation. Would it not be better to go back first and think of a better solution? But the Duke looked completely unconcerned. What was so important about background? This method was only temporary to begin with. Can you not just treat today's date as fulfilling the contract? The little foodie was still very conflicted. The Duke finally could not help asking the question in his heart. Could it be that you already have someone you like? The carriage suddenly stopped. The little foodie followed behind the Duke with a confused face. Although the Duke did not care much about status or background, he did not like others looking down on the little foodie, so she could choose whatever she wanted. This place was actually the famous clothing store Butterfly Dance. The little foodie was stunned by the dresses before her. Choose anything here. Are you serious? But the Duke was utterly unconcerned. The more expensive, the better. That way others would think I really like you. Although this was a gift given with an ulterior motive, Why was her heart still pounding so much? However, after looking around and around, the little foodie had absolutely no idea where to start. After all, when she used to live in the abandoned palace, her wet nurse made all her clothes, and she simply could not tell which ones counted as high-end. The Duke noticed all this and thought the little foodie did not like a single one. So he found a shop assistant and said a few quiet words. That shop assistant immediately came forward to greet the little foodie. Gesturing for her to come this way, the assistant matched a low-saturation dress to the little foodie's hair color and eyes. Most importantly, the Duke had even specially instructed them to choose a length convenient for movement. The little foodie could clearly feel that this dress fit her even better than the one she had worn when going out. The Duke stared closely at the little foodie after she changed clothes. Very beautiful. It suits you very well. The little foodie's heart suddenly began pounding rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the two of them arrived at a dessert shop again. The little foodie stared at the cakes before her and practically drooled, but she forcibly suppressed the greedy cravings in her mind and began worrying about the Duke's current physical condition instead. Yet the Duke picked up a piece of cake with his fork and proactively fed it to her mouth. This is exactly why I came. The little foodie went completely numb. Why was the Duke doing something this intimate in front of her? The gossiping onlookers around them all said it was too much for the eyes. In order to make the scandal seem real, the little foodie could only grit her teeth and accompany him to the end, watching the person before him eat so happily. The Duke had just been about to ask the clerk for another serving, but his stomach traitorously growled first. The little foodie was utterly dumbfounded. It had not even been 2 hours since breakfast, and the Duke was hungry again? Although someone still refused to admit it out loud, the little foodie spoke first and asked whether there was somewhere nearby that was a bit more open. The Duke had originally planned to go for a walk by the river after eating. The little foodie immediately agreed. Then let us go eat lunchboxes over there. But once they arrived, the Duke could only stand there staring helplessly. He could only watch as the attendants set up a cooking station. By the time the little foodie had everything prepared, the Duke was speechless. Did you not say you did not want to go on a date with me? Then why did you prepare so many ingredients? The little foodie played dumb. Was this not all for your sake? Tying on an apron, the little foodie began mixing her secret sauce in the frying pan. Then she finally chopped scallions and cabbage. Then she added the secret ingredient she had worked hard to make yesterday, slowly simmered it until the sauce thickened, and then plated it with the prepared side dishes. Today's menu: fried snacks, tteokbokki, and peach juice. The Duke was a little curious. Could this paper-like thing really taste good? But he could not withstand the little foodie constantly urging him. The Duke could only reluctantly take a bite. But at the very moment the food entered his mouth, his whole body trembled slightly. The rice cakes were pleasantly chewy, and the fish cake that looked like paper had soaked up the sauce and become exceptionally soft. The different textures intertwined together, unexpectedly creating rich layers. When the spiciness surged up, one sip of the drink instantly made everything feel refreshing. The little foodie also thoughtfully reminded him that the one beside it could be dipped in the soup. The Duke obediently did as he was told. Sure enough, it became even more delicious. But the little foodie's next sentence almost made him flip out on the spot. The Duke, who had been single for 28 years, had suddenly entered a romance route. But the little foodie thought he was only treating her like a mother, and she kept persuading herself that she was simply not worthy of the Duke. Yet the Duke suddenly pulled her into his arms, and the little foodie almost thought she was about to be confessed to. But the Duke lowered his voice and told her they were being followed. The Duke drew his sword and wanted to deal with the person immediately. The little foodie hurriedly stopped him. They were pretending to be lovers right now. So if the one who came was someone suspicious of that, would it not look even stranger if he left her alone here? If the one who came was a witch, then drawing a sword would be useless anyway. You still remember what happened last time, right? Although the Duke looked very displeased, luckily, he still listened. The little foodie suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought of a good idea. She grabbed the Duke and ran toward the market. Based on experience, there was no better place to shake off a tail than there. The Duke sighed. Although he did not want to admit that this stupid method worked, he really could no longer sense that person's movements. After this disturbance, the afternoon schedule could only be cancelled. But the Duke only looked away for a moment, and the little foodie had already run to the fruit stand. The strawberries at home had just run out, and she still wanted to make the Duke an identical strawberry cake. Seeing his wife smile so brightly, the Duke found it truly hard to refuse. So this was what it felt like to have one's heart stirred. Pick whatever you want, I will pay, but I will follow you every step of the way. On the way back, it suddenly began to pour. The little foodie was looking out at the scenery beyond the carriage window, but the Duke only cared whether she had had fun today. If there was anything she did not like, she could say it directly. Seeing that the little foodie kept staring at him without speaking, the Duke's face immediately turned red again. Finally, the little foodie gathered her courage and prepared to say those words. However, the carriage door was knocked at that very moment. The person who came was actually the captain of the Royal Knights. Their date was interrupted, and the Duke's expression instantly darkened. But the captain said this was the Emperor's will. His Majesty had ordered that the little foodie be invited into the palace. The Duke looked even more displeased when he heard that. Why was it specifically the little foodie they came to pick up? And why had they even brought several knights? The Duke used the excuse that the little foodie was tired, and especially since she had been followed today and was frightened, to refuse to let her enter the palace. palace. Tomorrow, he would personally bring the little foodie to explain to His Majesty. But the captain did not buy any of it, seeing that the two sides were almost about to start fighting. The little foodie was directly stunned. She strode up in front of the Duke. "Is it not fine if I just go?" The Duke instinctively grabbed the little foodie's hand. He suddenly felt a bad premonition. "Do not go, alright?" The little foodie thought of the Emperor's scheming face. If she refused to enter the palace, she might very well be saddled with some strange charge, and then it would truly be troublesome. Looking at the Duke's bitter and deeply worried expression, the little foodie had no choice but to use a ruthless move. She gently kissed the Duke on the forehead. "I will be fine. You should go back now." The knights at the side were all dumbfounded, and only after quite a while did they remember to bring her back to the imperial palace. Only the Duke remained, blushing as he stared blankly at the little foodie. "I will wait for you to come back." On the surface, the little foodie still looked fairly calm, but inside, she was already completely freaking out. She had actually kissed the Duke. Although it was not on the mouth, it still counted as a kiss. The little foodie could only keep brainwashing herself that she had had no other choice. But what exactly did the Emperor want with her? Could it be that he wanted her to go into the palace in the middle of the night to cook? If it was the Emperor, he really was capable of something like that. Suddenly, a series of impacts came from outside the carriage. As a thunderclap exploded across the sky, a masked man made a dramatic entrance, scooped up the little foodie, and tried to leave. The little foodie hurriedly struggled, but the masked man said, "Princess, this is not a kidnapping, so do not move around." Only then did the little foodie suddenly realize that this person had just called her princess. Looking at that familiar gray hair and green eyes, this person seemed to be. But before the little foodie could react, the masked man chopped her with one hand and directly knocked her unconscious. The little foodie had been kidnapped by a mysterious person. Princess Ingli had also strangely disappeared. The two people who had both lost their beloved wives had their anger instantly maxed out. They were going to see exactly who this blind kidnapper was. Meanwhile, the little foodie slowly woke up as well. The first thing she saw when she opened her eyes was Sister Ingli, and that hateful kidnapper too. Coin was very unconvinced. After all, he was also a titled knight. When the kidnapper claimed to be from Duke Elan's family, the little foodie immediately remembered. Was this not the most noble family aside from the royal family? Ingli was somewhat puzzled. She had clearly sent someone to pass word to the little foodie, so how had she been brought over directly without knowing anything? The little foodie suddenly remembered the person she had mistaken for an assassin and awkwardly told Ingli. At the time, she had thought someone was following her, so she had run off directly. Ingli did not blame the little foodie at all. None of that mattered. Anyway, they had still managed to meet successfully in the end, and from now on they would never have to return to the Empire again. As soon as the little foodie heard that, she immediately panicked a little. Coin let out a cold laugh. He had long known that the little foodie would not be willing. After all, while Ingli was desperately gathering a suicide squad, the little foodie was still leisurely playing house beside the slaughterer. Even if she was a royal princess, a traitor was still a traitor. Ingli sharply cut Coin off and told the little foodie to rest well first. But in her head, only the 3 words Suicide Squad remained. Ingli explained to her that the Suicide Squad was a military force made up of family members sworn to serve the royal family and people selected from among the kingdom's citizens. She had gathered them in the kingdom's name, and those who answered had now all assembled here. Unexpectedly, Ingli actually had a dream of rebuilding the kingdom. The little foodie completely broke down. The king and queen of the kingdom had died even earlier than in the original plot, and the duke had no interest in Ingli whatsoever. Although the plot had only gone a little off course, rebuilding the kingdom was not merely a slight deviation. Although she also supported Ingli taking the path of a strong female lead, she herself had absolutely no interest in the fate of the kingdom. Why did they have to drag her into it too? Just yesterday, she had handsome men and delicious food by her side, but today she could only sit here watching soldiers train. The moment she thought that she would never be able to return to the duke's side again, the little foodie felt a wave of loss. That man who was like a little rabbit was still waiting for her to feed him. No, wait. Why would she compare the duke to a rabbit? Had she gone crazy? Let me eat something first and calm down. But in the next second, the little foodie exploded. This tasted way too awful, right? Was this not just wasting food? She could endure anything else, but bad food was the one thing she absolutely could not endure. The little foodie suddenly called out to a knight. Pink Hair still did not know that the gears of fate had already begun to turn at this moment. As soon as Coin came in, he found the kitchen in an uproar. When he went in to take a look, he discovered that a group of people were surrounding the little foodie, watching her busy herself at the stove. Pink Hair hurriedly brought over the food that had just been made, only for Coin to knock it to the ground with one sweep. Seeing the food spilled all over the floor, everyone panicked. Coin warned everyone that the little foodie was someone who had cooked for the slaughterer before, who knew what tricks she had done to it. Even if he starved to death, he would never eat a single bite. The little foodie directly stuffed a spoonful into him. Coin had never in his life eaten something so delicious. Pink Hair could tell at a glance that Coin was acting tough, but had been won over by the taste. He had just wanted to tease him a little, but Coin shot him a sharp glare, and instantly, he stood there pretending to be dumb. Coin directly changed the subject. He would allow the little foodie to use the kitchen, but she had to use it under his supervision. No problem, but since you ate my food, should you not also do me a favor? Relying on her cooking once again, she won the hearts of the kingdom's knights. Completely kept in the dark, she still had no idea that plotting to kidnap her and make her leave the Duke forever was actually part of a deal between her sister and Gale. The little foodie carried the prepared meal to go see Ingli, but Ingli had not been opening the door. Coin had no choice but to take the little foodie to the back garden, and unexpectedly, the area behind the little wooden house was so beautiful. The little foodie suddenly felt that this flower seemed strangely familiar. Ingli had already hurried over. She explained to the little foodie that this was a flower very common in the kingdom. Although it did not quite suit the empire's climate, it grew very well here because this was the border region. The little foodie was very happy the moment she saw her sister. When she heard Ingli praise her cooking, she immediately could not wait to show her sister today's culinary skills. But Ingli suddenly asked her, "Do you want to return to the Empire?" The little foodie's whole body stiffened, and for a moment she did not know how to answer. After hesitating for a long time, she could only say that staying here, she did not seem to have much she could do. But Ingli said that she had brought the little foodie here not to make her fulfill royal duties. And she also knew that the little foodie did not want to have anything to do with the kingdom anymore. Hearing her sister say this, the little foodie broke out in nervous sweat. If that was the case, then she really did seem a bit like a traitor. What should she do? Ingli said she was afraid this plan would put the little foodie in danger. A bad premonition instantly arose in the little foodie's heart. No wonder Coin would call her a traitor. So in the end, the world where only she got hurt had finally been achieved. Ingli quickly explained that she simply thought the Duke was a very dangerous person and was worried he would hurt the little foodie. The little foodie could understand Ingli's way of thinking. After all, from the kingdom's standpoint, she really had been helping the Duke all along. But if she switched to the Duke's position, then his sensitivity and suspicion were not really strange. After all, there had been several times when she had almost lost her life, but the Duke also had a gentle side, and that gentleness could not have been fake. Thinking of how well the Duke had treated her, the little foodie still could not help questioning Ingli. "Do you really understand that person?" Ingli froze all at once. The little foodie also immediately realized that she had said the wrong thing. Ingli suddenly asked, "Then the rumors that you and the Duke are in love, are they not fake?" The little foodie hurriedly opened her mouth to deny it, but Ingli shifted her gaze to the side. She told the little foodie that she had already finished eating, and then got up and left. After walking 2 steps, Ingli suddenly turned back around and apologized to the little foodie, leaving the little foodie alone with a completely bewildered face. After returning to her room, Ingli looked somewhat displeased. Had they not already finished talking just now? But Gale smiled with a thoroughly cheerful face. New urgent intelligence had arrived. They were pursuing very closely, and you all had to change hiding places. Ingli's expression tightened. She was just about to tell the Suicide Squad members to begin preparing immediately, but Gale reached out and blocked her path. "What were you and the little foodie talking about just now?" Ingli told him that she had only been persuading the little foodie not to go back. Gale leaned close to Ingli's ear and said in a low voice, "It had better be that way, because I am a very suspicious person. You must not waver. If you cannot keep our agreement, then I will not help you kill the Emperor either." At this moment, the little foodie was sinking into deep self-doubt. She could not understand why she had said those kinds of words to defend the Duke, but if she were told not to refute it, she simply could not do that either. Could it be that she had really fallen for that person? The little foodie desperately brainwashed herself. Do not panic, do not panic. She only cared a tiny little bit. It was still far from being called love. Suddenly, Pink Hair ran while shouting, "This is bad. Something huge has happened. The Duke has come straight here with an army." After receiving the news, the Suicide Squad hurriedly began packing up, preparing to move. On the surface, the little foodie looked very nervous, but inside, she was already overjoyed. How should she send a message to reassure that Sundra Duke that she was safe? The little foodie pursed her lips and thought for a long time, and finally, she had an idea.